Welcome to Sydney Harbour on the 1st of February 2025. We're out here today for the Shaw and Partners Skiff Marathon. Classic day on Sydney Harbour, a little bit overcast, but we've got a beautiful southeaster blowing about 12 to 15 knots. And joining us today on the camera cat for today's racing is James Bury, as always, and Pat Langley from Vycobi and Skiff Sponsor. Welcome, boys.
Good to see you, Dole. Hey, what a good day. We should be in for a bit of a treat with such a wide range of boats out here today. It's going to be quite spectacular, Jimmy.
Yeah, it is going to be spectacular. Just over an hour until the 18s kick off, but got a lot of the smaller boats to get through first, including I think North Shore Senior class with Mr. Spees, Michael Spees, steering that one. So he'll be in for a nice long day around the harbour. And got one historical 18-foot skiff, I believe, and a ton of cherubs and a few other bits and pieces. So it should be more than interesting to watch.
Yeah, we've got B14s and 12-foot skiffs, 14-foot skiff as well. So, yeah, the majority of those other classes will be going off in our second start, I think. I think we've scaled back to 3 starts now. We were having 4, but we've scaled back to 3. But obviously the 18-footers will be the last ones to go. But, yeah, the NS14 with no spinnaker and just a little two-handed 14-foot boat. Very quick upwind, but they'll be a little bit slower downwind. But really good fleet. In the park earlier, everyone was pretty enthusiastic about seeing the Skiff Marathon come back. It's been a few years since it's been held. We do have a bit of history on how it all works, but my fond memory as a kid growing up in Clontarf is I used to run it from there when I was a kid, Pat, and I was a Manly junior flying ant sailor, and the 18-footers had come and rig up on Clontarf Beach, and I was like a kid in a candy store, and I decided then and then, I was probably 10 years old, I wanted to sail an 18-footer.
Unreal. So what year was that, Dole? Do you mind me asking?
Would have been early 70s, I suppose. Pat, what did we start in 73, was it, Jimmy, the
73
first one?
was the inaugural one, which was combined between Middle Harbour 16-foot Skiff Club, Manly 16-foot Skiff Club, the New South Wales 18-footer club, which is now the Australian 18-footer club, and the Sydney Flying Squadron over at Kirribilli. So it was held on the 29th of April and was quite the event, and was sponsored by, back then, the Sun newspaper, and the race was originally put together by a lovely gentleman called Jack Tier, who had the foresight to do this and loved sailing in general, and his family still sail today, with his grandson winning a gold medal, just to say, amongst other things that he's won, and Nathan, being Nathan Wilmot. Nathan Wilmot is up at the Australian sprint titles today for the 16-foot skiffs at Belmont, but so unfortunately we won't see them. And I didn't see any of the Tier descendants in the clubhouse when I went for a wander, but that would have been a nice touch if someone from the Tier family was there. Now, one for you, Dole.
Yes, mate.
Who won the first marathon?
I should have done my research. 1973. I'll go with Bobby Holmes.
No. Drinks at Manly 16-foot Skiff Club. Used to sail out of Middle Harbour 16-foot Skiff Club.
As a helm or a crew are we talking?
Oh, he thinks he's a helm.
John Munson, perhaps?
No. 16-foot skiff was called Nut and Muddle.
Oh, Craig Nichols.
Craig Nichols, there you go.
AKA Fast Eddie.
Past Eddie now.
So it was a 16s versus 18s type concept, right? And with yardstick handicapping.
Yeah, so in the first year they had 70 16-foot skiffs entered and 28 18-foot skiffs. And then it just progressed from there, and it got really big. In the 6th year was probably the biggest year that they had. They had 122 16-foot skiffs, 39 18s, 42 12-foots, and that was held on Sunday, the 18th of December. In December of 73, they held the second marathon after the passing of Jack Tear, and they made it a memorial race.
Yeah, well, my first one would have been in the 70s, unfortunately, I hate to admit. The one thing that really sticks in my memory, Pat, is at the end of the race they had a desk set up and there was a lady sitting there with a briefcase, and you went up and told her your boat name and she'd see where you finished, and pretty much everyone got some prize money, but they paid it all out in $5 notes.
So what did you do with the winnings?
Oh, of course it went straight back on the bar. They weren't silly. They paid you nice and early on so you could put it back over the bar at the club. But I always remember she had this briefcase chockers full of $5 notes. Back when $5 actually got you something, right? You could probably buy 10 schooners back then with $5. But yeah, they were good days, good fun.
So let's talk about the course today. So the traditional Harbour Marathon course. Jimmy, since you've done your research, and you might have to tell us how you did your research.
I know trade secrets, but obviously a guy that's very passionate about sailing. You know, I like reading a lot of things, but to do with sailing. But I let someone else do that, being John Stanley, or better known as Steamer, and he's the one who gave us all the relevant information. Steamer's quite the wealth of knowledge when it comes to sailing, and particularly 18-foot skiffs is his primary passion. And he was only more too happy to help when I asked him for some background information for today. But the course for today, Pat, it's quite. It actually is different. Back in the day, but here it is on screen. We start at Clark Island, work up around Shark Island, up past Sound Pigs, round to Lade Market Canoi, then down to Rocky Point or Balmoral, and then up towards Clontarf. Then they'll go up into Manly. Then the big long run down around Sound Pigs, or to the east of Sound Pigs, then around Shark Island, and then to the finish here at Clark. But interesting to note, Pat, each host club back in the day had their own version of it. So when it rotated around, the Squatty one obviously would start and finish over at Kirribilli. The Manly one would start in Manly, and as Dole alluded to earlier, the Middle Harbour one, they'd start up in Middle Harbour. So it was, some of my early memories of 18-foot skiffs and that are of the marathon, and it's pretty cool to see. And basically all the rules are all the same for all the classes. The only exception is the 16-foot skiffs, where they're allowed to actually have 3 on wire for the marathon. So it's but I think we've only got one 16-foot skiff I think I've seen in the park. So today, as I said, they got the Australian sprints on up at Belmont. So
yeah, I think we've actually got 2. I think we've got Thurlow Fisher Lawyers and Edenia, and I think they're both from Drummoyne Sailing Club.
Drummoyne, yep.
Yeah, so I think today's just a great celebration. Obviously, it's celebrating the 90th year of the Australian 18-footers forming, and it's a great celebration of all the racing on Sydney Harbour, and all the great things that we see out here every weekend.
Yeah, absolutely fantastic to see the different classes come together. And I notice there's quite a few young people in the Cherubs, and the Cherubs has always been an excellent feeder class up into the skiffs. So for some of the younger crews, there is no age limit on the Cherubs, so there is some older crews. But for the younger guys, it's good to see them come out, and hopefully they'll step up at some stage. I know all your boys on the Vycobi 18-footer, Pat, they're very, very, very good young blokes, and they all came through the Cherub class.
They did, yeah. Look, Kirk, Andrew, and Dan, they're Drummoyne diehards, and actually it's awesome because with supporting that boat, we feel like we've got all of Drummoyne supporting us as well. It's really fantastic. But like you mentioned, the Cherub class, it's just always been strong, and they've got a great community that that support that class, and every year the states, the nationals are well attended, they're well organised, and actually you'll see some pretty interesting boat names throughout the cherub fleet. I think they've got a bit of a competition as to who can come up with the weirdest name, so we'll keep an eye out for that. Having said that, I think the B14s have also got something similar going on, so yeah, it's going to be interesting. And I think you're seeing the cherub on the screen just now. Not quite sure which one that is. We'll have to keep an eye on that one. 3082. 3062. The Larry Canary, that'd be right, with being yellow. So
that used to be Richard Imlay's boat, who was an old 18-footer sailor from my era, and he sailed it for a bit with his kids, the Larry Canary. Who have we got on there today, mate?
Yeah, Nellie Imlay, so
there you go.
Daughter of
Richard's daughter.
Yes, yeah, and I think he's got another daughter, Sarah, who also is a cherub sailor as well. So obviously a very good sailing family. So Dole, talk about the history of the class, or the Australian 18-footers, my understanding, and I've had to do my own research today to really make sure I was on my game, but I do love the 18-footers and the whole history of it, all the way from its origins in the 30s, through to the 70s and then the 80s, and how the boats have changed. Back in 1930, J.J. Gilton, he was a big sport promoter, obviously big at rugby league, and if my understanding is correct, he was supporting the rugby league on Saturday, and then all the players would come and sail 18s on Sunday.
Yeah, that's right. And, it's pretty well documented. And, the big crews, big numbers on the boats back then, and how the breeze would lighten off and they'd dump people off on markers and come back and pick them up later and all that sort of stuff. But, yeah, in the historics to this day, it's still a tradition that the boats wear footy jumpers. We're about to see Yendy's on screen there, one of the most famous historic 18-footers around, and you'll see all the crew in there. Are they Bears jumpers?
Yes,
that's
jumpers,
right.
yes.
So,
North Sydney Bears.
North Sydney Bears jumpers.
No other team, Dol.
Yeah, well, that's why I was hesitant to say it, Jimmy, but...
North Sydney Bears will be back. Maybe not North Sydney.
But yeah, that's probably one of the best-known historic 18-footers, both from back in the day and now that we've got the reproduction. Historic 18-foot skiffs, the Yendy's is there, and those who know James's company, the Sail Media, that are broadcasting to you now, the Yendy's logo on the mainsail there is also the logo for Sail Media. So good on you, Jimmy, for carrying that bit of history through.
Well, it was a bit of an homage to good old Killo, so
yeah,
who was obviously a skipper of the Yendy's in the later years. So, and
an 18-footer commentator of some note.
Legend.
Yes,
yeah,
absolutely. And the Yendy's was actually built, the replica you see there was built by Ian Peirce Perdreau, very famous boat builder and skiff sailor. Everyone would know Peirce, and that boat, just beautiful, really beautiful how that thing was reconstructed. I think it's actually one of the faster of the replicas.
That and the boat just in front of it, the mighty Aberdeen.
Yep.
Very famous picture of the Aberdeen back in the day, absolutely lit up with water spraying well up past the boom, and we might, whoa, close on the Aberdeen not letting go of the mainsail.
And Pat, you sailed on the Yendy's at some point.
I did. I was roped by Peirce and his son Sam at the time. Sam, and we did the Australian Championships one year and had a blast. I never knew what a what's that? The wingtail and all that, the ringtail, and adding on the extra spinnaker and the handicap you got by putting out the extra bit
and a rub.
It was you had to have the esky had to be full at the back of the boat.
Yeah.
So that was a different type of sailing. I enjoyed that a lot.
Yeah, I've been lucky enough to do the same, and a couple of those have been on pretty horrendously fresh days with Phil Cup Barnett and Michael Berger Kennedy, who's sitting just behind me now. And when you get those things lit up in over 25 knots, it's a pretty scary bit of gear. They sort of reach maximum speed and then just start digging a hole.
digging down.
Big hole in the water.
But yeah, they're a lot of fun to sail, and if anyone is watching and keen to have a go in one, by all means, get in touch with the Sydney Flying Squadron and go on down there on a Saturday and introduce yourself. They're always looking for crew.
Absolutely. Well, you think about it, you know, the spectacle that they were back in the 1930s, you know, they were selling 8 very full loads of spectators to watch. It was quite the commercial operation. And, you know, he was quite a promoter, JJ Gilton, who obviously has kept the name when they created the World Championship, which still runs today. And, you know, so that was 1930s, and then the boats, they evolved, I guess, to what you see today. They've got narrower, but maybe let's talk a little bit about how it changed. You know, the 60s and 70s, what were the boats looking like then, Dole?
Yeah, well, the early 60s, they were still timber boats, and they were sailing mainly fourer. And then as they moved into the 70s, the boats started to go to 3 hands. Ben Lexon, back then Bob Miller, designed a couple of boats, the most famous one being the Taipan, quite a revolutionary boat in that it was skinny, it was easily driven, it planed early, lightweight, and that was probably one of the biggest revolutions in the class. And then as you moved on into the 80s, obviously carbon fibre came in, the Ian Murray designs, and the boat started to get wings and asymmetric poles, and that was obviously a huge leap forward in the technology. And back then, you know, the 18-footers really led the way, influencing sailing as a whole. So
yes,
as far as construction and sail design and stuff, the development that happened in the 18-footers then flowed on to all different sorts of boats, like we're seeing here, the Cherubs with an asymmetric pole and you know, fathead mainsails and all that sort of thing. A lot of those things started in the 18-footers. So now we're down in the more recent years. We're down to a sort of more one design 18-footer. The width of the wings, the heights of the masts, they're sort of in a box rule. The hulls are all identical. It's sort of slowed development a little bit, but what it's made it is affordable. And everyone's racing on a much more even playing field. So back 20, 30 years ago, it really came down to who had the most money and could do the most development. So what we've seen now is it's stabilised the class, and they're a great boat still, fantastic boat, and you know, famous all around the world.
Well, I think, yeah, the club made a really good call to do that, because it's the class has stood the test of time, and it really was an arms race there for a while, and you know, I think if you look at the class, it has evolved. There's been some nice refinements over the years, but if you think about the low riding world and now with the foiling world, well, you know, the 18-footers are still the king of the low riders.
Certainly are, and always a spectacle. So looks like we're starting to get ready for our first start. We're just counting down there. We've got the NS14, Michael Spees, 2009, you can see down the leeward end, and a bunch of Cherubs.
And some lasers as well, Dole. Four lasers.
4 lasers are joining in. That's news to us, I think, is it? Or are we on the list?
They're on the list. So Double Bay Sailing Club normally races on Saturday. They do have a regatta away, but I think a couple of there's 5 lasers here, in fact, a couple of full rigs and a couple of radials. So, but they're off to a good start. The Cherubs are a pretty nice fleet here, so they're going to have a great race within the race, and the NS14 as well, with Speezy on board.
Indeed.
There's a few,
so that's
just looking out the other side, Dole, there's a few
stragglers
still trying to make it out here.
Just got one's got you on port here, Jimmy. There you go. We'll just jump out of their way. 198.
Good looking setup on that boat. I like their pink. So we've got a pretty light southeasterly here today, slightly overcast. Forecast to build to somewhere between 10 to 12 knots. So, you know, it should provide some pretty fast sailing up and down the harbour. A bit of two sailing going on, I'd imagine. It's
Yeah, there's going to be a lot of two sailing, and the boat in the front of your screen there is the Cherub Robbie, skippered by Will Beck, who's the son of Jimmy Beck, very well-known 18-footer sailor from my era. Will, I think, won the Nationals last year.
I think
In
was
the
this year,
Cherubs, I
wasn't
think
it?
it was this year, yeah.
Yeah, I heard him being interviewed on Bar Karate. He's quite a character, young Will.
Just like his dad, mate. Yeah. Jimmy's quite the character as well. And out to leeward there, you can see Michael Spees in the NS14. Looks like the Larry Canary, probably second in the Cherubs at the moment. And they're pretty rapidly starting to put some distance on these lasers. But certainly Will Beck's got a good jump on the rest of the fleet here.
And third place boat there, 3137, is a boat called Cunningham. So, and once again, Cherubs, they've got some pretty cool boat names. Looks like an all-girls crew there on Cunningham. Gail Glasslock, the helm. So, they've got some good racing. But, yeah, look, interesting with Speezy just there. He's sitting to leeward. He's getting along pretty well. Different hull form to the Cherub.
Which boat did that used to be, Pat? 2009.
Well, our celebrated producer here on the boat, Michael Chittenden, his son Alex, who I think was a pretty prolific NS14 sailor from my memory, and well funded by his dad. So, so evidently that boat's still going around. We might have to get more data from Chits about.
Yeah, now Maritimo, but formerly known as Chitty Chitty Bang Bang, and national champion at the time when Alex was sailing it. So pretty good pedigree on that boat, and Speezy's got a habit of buying winning boats. So I believe he bought that boat about 4 years ago off an owner in between Alex and Speezy. So that's Mark Thorpe. Tiger, I think, designed that. But one of the notable things with both the NS14s and the Cherubs is they're both a development class, so they have a set of rules that you can design within, and they both have quite sort of bumpy shaped chines on the hull to get them out to a measurement point. So both of these boats need to be sailed pretty flat. You don't want to get those big curved chines getting water flow over them, so they try and get the chines high. Because they've got a very curved form fore and aft, so they look a little bit funny, but when they're sailed well, they're pretty. Both these boats are pretty slippery through the water. So at the moment, they're just working their way up to the mark at Shark Island. They'll have a few tacks to put in. But I've got to say, Speezy doing very well here. He's getting through the water well, and he's probably, in this fleet, he's probably in second place behind Robbie, Will Beck's boat. And from memory, I think Robbie was Will's grandmother. So that boat was named after, I believe.
That would make sense, actually. I did now remember from the interview, his grandmother funds his sailing. Hence the name Robbie. So there you go. Yeah, interesting.
On screen there is
that a motorboat, maybe?
3166. Wonder if it's 3196. The motorboat, perhaps. Maybe there might be a typo on our score sheet. But
if it's 9.6, it's Peter McLeod and Emma Furlong. Not sure of the name of that boat.
We've been known to be wrong in the past, so it's okay. Don't panic. It's a long day.
And I think I saw a 29er out here as well now, so just coming up wind. So we've got a 29er in the class.
On the right of screen.
Lucy Ferguson, as if, and the 29er class and leading into the 49er class, that along with the Cherubs, they're becoming a very good development fleet for future 18-foot skiff sailors, and so great to see the 29ers out here. And I think that class has had a few ups and downs in recent times, you know, just with a few decisions by Australian Sailing in terms of youth worlds and things like that. But a great boat, and certainly, you know, kids are getting some great international racing in that class.
Yeah, I was part of the development team for the 29er, Pat, and built all the prototypes and did quite a bit of sailing on the boat, and it was great to see. I hadn't seen him for a few months. Julian Bethwaite was in the park, who I did a lot of work with over the years, both in the skiffs and all the niner boats, so it was good to catch up with Jules. He was doing his usual wander through the park and just sort of sniffing around, seeing what's going on. He always loves to keep abreast of what's going on in the sailing world.
Well, the Bethwaite fingerprints are all throughout the fleet today, with, you know, not only the NS class and the B14 class as well, and obviously, you know, had a big role with 18-foot skiff development as well.
Yeah, we came up with a pretty good formula that worked on boats. It didn't matter whether they were 12 foot to 20 foot. The same sort of formula worked, and big credit to Frank, Julian's father. It was a real pleasure to work with Frank. He was a pretty brilliant man, and that legacy lives on in a whole bunch of different classes of boats that are still active today. It's fantastic.
Yeah, so Robbie just going through a bit of wake. Obviously, there's a lot of traffic being a Saturday today, you know, Saturday race day. So Robbie's coming on starboard tack to Shark Island, but what he may not be able to see at the moment is a whole fleet of yachts coming around on port tack.
A couple of big yachts too.
So could be interesting.
Yeah, they're all in the, I believe, the combined clubs race, the yachts today. So they're going around the harbour one way, we're going around the harbour the other way at the moment. So, but the first mark here that they go to, Pat, is a laid mark, because obviously all the Yachting Australia marks will have to be rounded to starboard. So,
oh, that's good organisation. So anyway, well, Robbie's on starboard tack here on Sydney, so we'll see how this pans out.
I think he'll wait for this Sydney 60 to go past him. He's going to get some pretty decent gas off that. He might be able to lay this next mark, and he will be on starboard, so these yachts will have to keep clear of him. But I suspect he might have to put a little tack in, but at the moment he looks like he might almost lay this mark.
Just to lure him, Spees is really hugging the island there on the NS14. So he's just had to tack out of the island there now.
Bit slow across the boat, the old Speesy.
He's not a young man, mate. He's had a hard life too. But yeah, we're going to get to this mark, and the Cherubs should be able to get spinnakers up for a little while, and the NS14 doesn't have a spinnaker, so I think we'll see the Cherubs sort of start to put a bit of distance on the NS14. There's Will's just had to put in a little short tack, like I thought he did. He wasn't going to lay that mark, but it's going to be a pretty short, quick one. He'll be tacking any minute now and getting around this mark. And then we'll see. It might be a bit tight for a spinnaker, but we'll see. I think he might put one up and at least get to sort of across into the harbour a bit till he gets into some good pressure.
Pretty slick little team, this too. You can see they're very well coordinated. Got a great setup. Well, I'll probably put the mocker on them there a little bit, but you know, got a great setup. The rig looks pretty well set up for them. So yeah, they've got a pretty handy lead at the moment, particularly over the second place Cherub.
Yeah, now that kite's up, they're going to really clear out pretty quick here.
Well, early favourite, perhaps.
Yeah, wouldn't surprise me. Yeah, young Will, he's been doing some bigger skiff sailing as well. He's been sailing in 12-footers and 16-footers. So the Cherub would just feel like a toy to him now, I'd imagine. Next around is Michael Spees, just off camera now, but we're looking at Robbie absolutely blazing down the harbour there now. That's a lovely shot.
Isn't it? He's got a great send going on there.
And pretty good angle, Pat. Looks like he'll sort of be enough distance off the land there that he shouldn't sort of get into too much light air up near Nielsen Park.
Absolutely, and you know the wind might bend around a little bit more, so he might be able to get a fair way up the harbour before having to knock that spinnaker off.
So next around was the NS14, and
Then the
third
29.
around is the 29er. Yep, there they are now.
With Lucy Ferguson. So they'll push hard today. That's a pretty quick boat, the 29er. So I'll be interested to see how they go amongst the cherubs.
And you can see the bulk of the cherubs there in the top of your shot. The blue spinnaker that's just gone up, you could just see just then, was the Larry Canary.
And this blue spinnaker just going up behind is Cunningham. Just having a few little issues with the spinnaker halyard.
Not what you want for a long day, Pat.
It might be caught in the hounds. Not quite sure there.
Yeah, it might be a rigging error there, I think. Might be under the forestay by the looks. Reasonably easy to rectify, but it's going to take them some time if that's the case.
Fourth place, 3177. I like the name of this boat. Short, tired and emotional. Lily Peel.
That sums up the camera cat at the end of most long days.
Who's short?
Sam's the short one.
I was going to say Dylan, but anyway.
We can work on the who's tired and emotional next.
I'm the emotional one, Pat.
Excellent.
3188 in the cherubs is the next one around.
Pop and roll, Thomas Armistead. So it's great to see the cherub class supporting it. We've also got a laser going around the top mark at the moment. A laser radial from Double Bay. And I think that is Darryl Lawrence. And, you know, the club uses the, obviously being located at Double Bay, we coexist really well with the Double Bay Sailing Club. And the Double Bay Sailing Club has a massive fleet of lasers every Saturday. They also do travel to a lot of regattas, but, you know, it is a good collaboration with Double Bay Sailing Club.
Yeah, excellent to see the neighbours. Sometimes those neighbourly sailing clubs see each other as competition, but yeah, the 18-footers and the Double Bay Sailing Club have a very good relationship at working together. And as with all things, stronger together, right? So no point pushing back against each other. Much better to collaborate, and great to have some of the lasers out here sailing with us today.
You can just see the cherubs going down the harbour there. You know, we've got the crew on the trapeze trying to keep the boat powered up. And I think that we're going to have to see the pink spinnaker make a little pass here at the moment.
Bit hard for us to see sail numbers, folks, so apologise if we can't identify everybody, but we compiled a pretty good list before we came out and got as many sailor names and boat names as we could. Always doing our research.
And it's worth noting, you know, it's coming up to 2:20 local time here, and the 18-foot skiffs are going to start at 3 p.m. So there's a fair head start for the 18-footers to chase down, and yeah, I think the cherubs will be pretty hard pressed to be caught. They're off.
Yeah, good chance. I think the lighter it was going to be, the more chance the 18-footers would have had, because they can power up in that light air. But we've got a nice little breeze, and yeah, I think these fast cherubs, they'll get around this track pretty quickly, and the 18-footers might have, I think you're right, Pat, they might have a bit of trouble catching these guys.
Well, though, having said that, you know, there's going to be some light parts of this racetrack. You know, when we get down to Clontarf and that area, there's going to be a few potholes. So let's see. I'm not going to rip up any tickets yet.
Hold your tickets, ladies and gentlemen. Yeah. But yeah, interestingly, you're looking at the cherubs there now. They've managed to come around the corner at Nielsen Park. It is a little bit lighter but that's allowed them to point a little bit further east. They have to keep east of Sow and Pigs, and the direction that they're sailing at the moment, it probably won't stay like that because they'll get a few more puffs as they get to Watson's Bay. But at the moment, they'll be getting close to laying over Sow and Pigs, and they've still got their spinnakers up. So we'll see how that pans out as we get further down the track.
So what we might do, Dole, we might leave the cherubs, the NS and the lasers here, and we're going to head on back down to the start area for the next start at 2:30. So, and pick up all those riders and leading up to the 18-foot skiffs, as you said, at 3 o'clock, which would be pretty cool to see.
Yeah, well, we never know. We might catch up to these cherubs later in the day. They're certainly off. They've got a... Looking at that footage right now, obviously with the yachts going through on port tack to windward of them, there's a lot of disturbed air up there off Nielsen Park and a lot of difference in angles. There's a couple of people in some good puffs that are barrelling down the course and a couple of people staying high in some light air. So there'll be some snakes and ladders, I'd imagine.
Yeah, I know Will Beck out in front there. He'll read it pretty well. And he'll pick his way through these patches and find the pressure.
And Pat, the Shore and Partners, obviously today's sponsor, they had a bit of a shindig in the park. What was that all?
Yeah. So Shore and Partners Financial Services, they've been a strong supporter of the 18-foot skiff class for the last 6 years, I think. And CEO Earl Evans actually has a great family connection to the 18-foot skiff class. His father, actually his parents, had a sail-making business in Brisbane and used to make all the sails for 18s up in Brisbane 50 years ago. So he has a bit of an emotional, good family connection. So obviously, having the success of Shore and Partners as a business and being Sydney-based, you can't get anything more iconic than 18-footers. And so he's been a passionate supporter of the 18-foot skiff class for, like I said, for 6 years. And today, we had a function in the park just there at Double Bay with a bunch of staff and clients, and many of them really interested in understanding the history of 18-foot skiffs and understanding how they work. It was really good. We had the skipper of the Shore and Partners 18-foot skiff team, Emma Rankin, do a nice talk, being obviously only one of 2 female skippers in the class. She had some pretty nice insights to give everyone. So they're going to be out there today on the spectator ferry, and it is really great to see the sponsor interaction with the class. And as a sponsor myself, we really enjoy the partnership with the Australian 18-footers. It's obviously we're in the game with our product. That's one aspect of it, but from an external aspect, if you've got clients and partners and you want to entertain them, there's not much better out there, in my opinion.
Yeah, Pat, and obviously you do great things across multiple different water sports, lending your support to sponsoring events and boats and individuals. But with Shore and Partners, one of the things that I've really admired from Earl, and I've got a bit of involvement like you in the paddling side of things, and Earl's also in the motor racing side of things, and he's in a bunch of different stuff, but he's very community conscious, he's very environmentally conscious, and to him it's more than just putting his name on a sail. I think it's really admirable the consciousness he puts into. It's not just advertising to him, is it? He's a pretty good fella.
He is a ripper fella. He has his motto, actually. It's work hard, live well, give back. I probably didn't get that exactly right, but that's the sentiment. And it really is. He's created they've created the Shore and Partners Foundation, which to date has donated over $100 million to charity. the Gotcha for Life charity is one that's very close to all of our hearts, and Earl's a massive supporter of Gus Warland, and so much so we actually now have the Gotcha for Life 18-foot skiff out here racing, which is just incredible to build that awareness for such a great cause. And yeah, you're exactly right. You know, for Earl, it really is about giving back, and you know, talking to all the staff there, they're right in on it. You know, they just think it's the best place to work, and they can't believe that they can actually be involved with all these great sports, but also involved with these great charities.
Yeah, real credit, and that's why I wanted to mention it, because these people are sort of unsung heroes at times, and it's important to know that good people doing good things deserve good recognition.
They sure do.
So at the moment we've got B14, 16-footers, 12-footers, and maybe a few others getting ready for their start. I think we've got about 3 minutes or 2 and a bit minutes to go. We've just had the Thurlow Fisher 16-foot skiff go past us. They're from the Drummoyne Club. B14 778. Who have we got there? We've got a
Fairyland, Sophie Hunt, actually.
Okay, so Sophie Hunt, a long-time B14 sailor. I know Sophie well. I've built her a couple of boats, and she has Garth Bickford crewing for her today. And Garth's a very handy young sailor and match racer, and I think Garth might be Sophie's son-in-law. So they should be possibly one to watch from the B14s today, I think.
Well, Sophie, famous for Hunt Leather. You know, she's one of the main organisers of the class. They just had their World Championship at Wallara Sailing Club over the New Year break, and you know, still very strong class with the big fleet in the UK. Yeah, you know, it's been really cool. The other stalwarts of the class is Richie and Lisa Reynolds in the Nude, which is the pink B14, and on any given Sunday they will be out here, rain, hail or shine.
Yeah, you've got to be careful how you word that, Pat, because you did say out here sailing is Richie Reynolds and Lisa McMillan in the Nude. Now, we should specify their boat is called the Nude. They're not actually sailing in the Nude.
Well, that's it. Thanks for picking that one up, Dol. Yeah.
But yes, I've built a couple of nude boats for Richie and Lisa. And it should be also noted that our fearless leader here, our skipper, Mr. James Bury, is a former national champion in the B14 class.
Oh, I did not know that.
Back when he was a bit younger and slimmer.
And a bit wiser.
Oh, I remember sailing I campaigned at B14 with my now wife. We thought it'd be a great idea to sail together for a season, and well, anyway, we survived the year and we stayed married, but I don't think she sailed much longer after that.
That was the end of the sailing relationship.
But we had a lot of fun.
Start of a great marriage, end of a bad sailing relationship.
We now run a business together, so it must have worked somehow.
Yeah. So that's Richie and Lisa at the top end of the line there. You can see with the pink.
No, that's Pretty in Pink.
Oh, that's Pretty in Pink, is it? Oh, Richie and Lisa are the leeward of them. That's it. Yep.
800 is Richie.
Pretty in Pink would have been a previous The Nude, I would imagine.
Yes. Correct. Yeah.
Martin Bland on Pretty in Pink. And off
they go. And we're away. And the 12-foot skiffs, you can see their LCC. That's Jonathan Temple and Richard Jones. Very well-known 12-foot skiff team who've been around for a long time. Richard actually sailed with me on the 18-footers back in the early days. They'll probably be one to watch in the 12s today. But the 14-foot skiff has really nailed the start here, and they're climbing over the B14s. Have we got some names for those guys, Pat?
Yeah, David Wright on Do You Get It Yet? Oz 657 is the sole 14-foot skiff out here today, but you're right, he got a great start down on the pin end, and would be our leader in this fleet at the moment.
Yeah, he just got squeezed by the B14 there and had to go behind him and take his stern, but now he's got his bow down. He's going a good couple of knots quicker, but not as high. But yeah, the 14-foot skiff has a little foil on the rudder, which does help create a bit of lift. The boat doesn't lift out of the water, but it makes the boat pretty lively.
Yep. Actually, right, I was looking at the other 12-foot skiff that was down at the pin end now in the blue hull, which I didn't actually catch. I think, or is that a 16-foot skiff? Difficult to tell from here. But a nice fleet of B14s here today. I think we've got about 8 of them out here. So great to see them supporting the marathon regatta. And we've got a big catamaran just spearing in front of the fleet there. Typical Sydney Harbour traffic.
Just getting in the way.
Shippo would love it.
A kumquat.
But the 14-foot skiff are really winding up now. Say the 14-foot skiff, the International 14, would be the most efficient boat in this fleet.
Yeah, for sure. And he's really legging out now. He's got a little bit of pressure. He's taken off. Really going pretty quick through the water now.
Yeah, they're an amazing boat. You know, development class still, the International 14, and very strong in the UK as well as Australia. I've always loved those boats. They're unreal.
Yeah, it's moving nicely there now, and they're getting into a pretty handy lead. Maybe he could be one of the favourites who could get away and maybe get a little jump on the 18-footers.
Yeah, maybe Will Beck might have to keep an eye out for the I-14 coming later on.
He'll be coming for them, yeah.
Yeah, just for listeners that have just tuned in, early on we just had a fleet that started at 30 minutes before this fleet, which was made up of Cherubs, NS-14s and lasers, and the leader of that pack was Will Beck on Robbie, and strong fleet of Cherubs, roughly about 12 of them, predominantly from the Drawing Sailing Club. So yeah, we've got a staggered start today with everything under the sun.
I can see the Cherubs now, Pat. They're out between the heads and making their way towards our second rounding mark at Canai before they head down to Balmoral. So they are a fair way up the harbour.
Yeah, they're going to be hard to beat.
They'll be hard to catch. I think you're right. Still looking at the 14-foot skiff there and looking good. Now we've got a 12 there. Can't quite make out
Brett
which
Hobson,
one
I think that is.
Hobbo, is it?
Yeah.
Just crossing the B14 there, 78, which is Natalia Wisniewska, who has sailed the 16-footers at Manly for the last couple of years, but this year she made the switch into the B14 for the World Championships, which have recently been held at Wallara Sailing Club.
The 12s, I tell you what, they're a spectacular boat to watch on a windy day going downwind. They really have no hull in the water at any given time.
And you really have to be a little bit crazy to sail one, because downwind they're basically completely out of control in 20 knots and more. So yeah, it's sort of hang on for grim death and hope for the best as they just launch out of the water, and yeah, it's a bit like riding a bucking bull than sailing at the same time. They're insane little boats. A crazy amount of sail area for a 12-foot boat. So basically the Cherubs and the 12-foot skiffs have almost developed into the same hull shape. And yeah, the 12-foot skiff can sometimes carry probably 3 times the sail area as the Cherub does.
Yeah, never assume that they can give way to you when you see them coming at you.
Never. Never assume. Yeah.
And a strong class in New Zealand, you know, they always have their inter-dominion regatta, you know, with the Australian and New Zealand fleets coming together to race.
Well, we would have had more 12s here if the container hasn't arrived back from the Inter-Dominions.
Yeah,
So
very strong class in New Zealand. We're just on screen. We've got B14, 7-8.
Yeah, so that's Natalia. And,
That's Natalia.
She's leading the B14 fleet at the moment, which is fantastic. Any of the 16-footer people out there all know Natalia, who sailed on the red pumps for a couple of seasons, and she really loves the sailing. She's a great girl.
Yeah, it just looks like a nice little breeze line bending around the point here, and actually off screen you can't see there's a pretty big ship that's doing a pretty big manoeuvre to avoid us. The big Captain Cook Sydney 2000. Anyway, that's off screen. Unfortunately, can't see it, but there's always something out here, isn't there, Dog?
We see him most Sundays, mate. Don't worry about that. He's like a magnet to us.
And actually, our fellow commentator Jimmy Bury, he's having to commentate, but he's also having to steer around all of this, so he's doing a pretty good job. He's got plenty on his plate at times, so do apologise if you hear any cursing.
Oh, he's great at multitasking, our Jimmy.
Yep, absolutely.
As a seaplane cuts through the middle of the fleet at the same time. We've got a bit going on here, folks.
Yeah,
just missed it. He would have been just above the shot that you're just looking at now. A seaplane just came in and landed. So,
yeah, which is why we had to get the drone back in. Obviously, we've got to manage ourselves around the air traffic, but just coming up, we're making our way up to the top mark now, and I think the International 14 is just around to the top mark. He's got a nice puff, about to hoist the spinnaker.
there's the two 16-footers from Drummoyne Sailing Club. Both, they're having a bit of a match race. They're not doing themselves any favours slowing each other down there.
Yeah, the B14s, they've got the wood on them at the moment. A lot of traffic around Shark Island today. And next weekend's the Sail GP, so this island will be transformed again. So just scanning through the fleet there as we make our way to the top mark.
It's a little bit hectic here at the moment.
Not on screen, but Hobbo appears to have not gone around the right mark. So,
yep, he's gone around the YA mark rather than the laid mark.
So that's Geotherm, one of the champion 12-foot skiffs.
No, they're pulling up their spinnaker. It's
because the next boat that's going around the top mark will be a B14. So I don't know. I don't think he's going to turn around and notice.
No, now that they've got their spinnaker up, they won't be looking. So, yeah, the next one, the B14, number AUS 78, that's Natalia. We're not sure who Natalia is sailing with today. But excellent first little leg from them. They've got a pretty good lead there in front of, I think it's Richie and Lisa next.
Yep, that is Richie and Lisa next.
Interesting, I think the breeze has flicked a little bit more to the east since the Cherubs went around. So, certainly, I think they need to get the spinnakers on, but I think these guys are running a different angle.
Yeah, a bit deeper.
Just getting a nice gob full of...
From a member of the public who I think might be blaming us for the 12-footer missing the mark. It seems every other boat in the fleet is going around the correct mark except one.
Well, maybe he's got us on coverage. We can just send a nice cheery hello to him.
Perhaps he had a 50 on the geotherm.
Yes.
Well, there was an amendment to the sailing instructions, so occasionally you've got to check back every now and then.
You do. So, well, it looks like the rest of the fleet have managed to get around the right mark. So they're all hoisting their spinnakers now. I can see the Nude looking pretty nice with their pink spinnaker down the course there. And still a lot of traffic to navigate around.
Yeah, well, I've just noticed the finish mark for the Combined Club yacht races up here in the entry to Rose Bay, and you've still got the amateurs going around now the Shark Island mark, so Sydney amateurs.
Oh, it's colourful, isn't it?
Wouldn't have it any other way.
No, it's what you sign up for when you sail on Sydney Harbour.
Yeah, well, old mate who just had the discussion with us thought it would be a good idea for all these boats to be going around the YA buoy in the wrong direction when there's like 100 yachts going around it in the right direction. So that was never going to end well for anyone if they didn't lay a mark up here. But anyway, always someone who knows better.
Yeah, maybe if you didn't catch that, we just happened to get some nice advice from another boat.
A member of the public.
Member of the public informing us that something about which mark we should be rounding, and we were the people that got it wrong. All right.
Well, let's not dwell on that. let it ruin our day.
No, let's have a little laugh about it. So, just looking at the time, by the way, guys, we're coming up to 2:42 local time, so we'll be having to make our way back soon to the 18-foot skiff start. But just on screen here, we've got the 12-foot.
That's Skoll, so that's Dave Winning and Robbie Pollock. Two fellas who've been in the 12-footer class for quite a long time. Plenty of experience on board there.
And as you can see, there's not much of a boat, is there?
It sure isn't.
She's a little boat with a lot of sail. And that isn't the big rig. I think that's...
No, it looks like the number 2, doesn't it?
Number 2, yeah.
Wow.
So they do have a bigger rig than that.
Not much room to store your cheese and bickies.
No, mate. That's LCC on screen there.
We're just panning up to the B14s now. They're making their way. They're obviously starting to get, headed with their spinnakers, and like the previous fleet, they're going to need to leave sound picks to port, so they will need to knock them off. And actually, I can see the leading B14
nearly went in the tide there.
Nearly went in the tide there. They've hit a big header, and they're just getting themselves back on track, but certainly a bit waffly off Nielsen Park.
And meanwhile, the 12-footers and 16s look like they're going for a picnic at Clifton Gardens at this point in time.
It is a very nice spot for a picnic, Dom. That's where they used to run a lot of championships, so skiff championships out of is Clifton Gardens back in the day.
Beautiful spot on that Sydney Harbour.
Well, with sort of 15 minutes to go to the 18s set sail to join this marathon race, we might mosey on back down towards the start for that, and get prepped to watch the 18s charge and try and catch these other skiffs that have started on the other 2 start lines.
Yes, it'll be interesting. So let's probably move on to talking about the 18s while we sort of make our way back to the start line. But last night they had the Balmain Cup, and you boys were out there for that, and looked like Lazarus had a pretty good night.
Yeah, they sailed exceptionally well. They've been showing moments of brilliance throughout the year building up, and they're finally starting to put all those pieces of the puzzle together and stringing them together for a full race. So that's awesome to see. But the whole quality of the 18 fleet, Pat, has really taken a big step up over the first half of the season. So, the persistency of these guys coming back and having the bejeebus kicked out of them each week, because the start of the season, as you know, hasn't been super friendly to them, and they keep coming back, and they're all the better for it. So it's good to see.
Yeah, even talking to Emma Rankin, she had a pretty rough start to the season. She was a bit of a late starter. She came back from a European campaign and had to get a crew going. But, you know, she had a great result up at the Nationals by her standard, and she's really coming on. And, you know, days like today where it's a little bit on the lighter side, you start to see these guys start to get their act together. And, you know, the likes of obviously Harry and the team on the Rag are obviously one of the dominant boats in the fleet at the moment. And, you know, it's nice to see these other guys catch up, also with the likes of Balmain as well, being last night's sponsor.
Yeah, the Balmain guys have been awesome. They're just, yeah. The good thing, the one thing I do love about the Balmain boys is they just never give up attitude, and they just send it to you, bend it sort of attitude, and it's awesome to watch. You know, like that no fear and just send it. Yeah, I don't know if the crew on board the Balmain feel the same as young Henry, and how he just wants to send it off everything. But it's really good to see, and you know, some of the other young teams are really starting to blossom, which is good.
Yeah, last night, I don't know if you watched, Pat, but I was talking the Balmain boys up. I have known them most of their lives, and you know, they're young, they're enthusiastic, they've really found their legs quite early on in the 18-footers, and I thought last night the conditions just suited them down to a T, and they hit the ground running, but they were a little unlucky a couple of times, and they ended up finishing third. But yeah, a fairly easy night last night. What we have been seeing is, you know, when it gets windy and you know, the real skill and boat handling comes in, we have been seeing the Rag and Finport and Yandu in particular sort of being the standouts. But everyone is starting to catch up. And on a day like today, when it's not fresh and it's tactical, yeah, it's great. It's great to see guys like Lazarus, Balmain, and obviously the Vycobi, mate.
Well, the Vycobi, yes.
I'm forever G'ing your boys up, mate. So you've got me you got me in your corner. But yeah, you know, young crews and who you know, they've got a big future ahead of them. Yeah, the baton in the class is being handed over from the, let's say, more mature generation onto these young guys. And look, for me, it's awesome to see these guys coming through and doing well. And you know, an 18-foot is not the sort of boat you're going to jump in and win a world title the first year. We all know that. And, yeah, these younger guys, they're the future of the class, and they're the guys that you're going to see on the podium in the future.
Well, yeah, you've got to go to the school of hard knocks with the 18s, don't you? You know, you've got to do your time, go through every possible crash, experience it all, and once you've done that for about 4 seasons, you're probably ready to start racing.
Yeah, well, you usually go through every type of crash about 3 times before you realise you can't do that, right? But yeah, you're right, mate. You learn the hard way, and you get a lot of bruises along the way.
And there's the historic 18s off again. They're doing some sprint races today, so.
Sprint being the appropriate word.
Yes, mate, yes. Well, can't use Zimmer frames on the water, so sprint it is.
Oh, they are. Look at that footage there. That's really spectacular.
Magnificent looking boats. Yeah, just fantastic.
Yeah, we're lucky to have them, you know, that we're lucky to have such a passionate group of people that want to keep putting these boats together and racing them every weekend and keeping that history alive.
And they're real works of art. You know, as a shipwright myself, they're like a piece of furniture, mate. And I've been to a number of the launches as these boats have been built over the years, and you go down to Kirripilli there and you go, it's almost a shame to put it in the water, mate. You know, it should be sitting in a museum somewhere, but they're built to sail, and they're built for a purpose, and that's what they're doing.
They're the grand piano of Sydney Harbour.
Certainly are. Just magnificent boats.
Pretty good. Looks like Yendy's looking pretty good again there. Yendy's has always been a pretty fast boat in that fleet.
I don't think the Myra 2's out there today. The Myra 2's what I've done most of my miles on with Phil Barnett, and that the Myra 2 was sailed by I think Cub's grandfather. yeah, you know, looking back at this marathon too, you know, the names from the past of in the 18-footers, guys like Bobby Holmes and Hugh Cook, and a few of our mates like Willie Morrison, Jimmy, and Normie Hyatt, good old steamer, John Stanley, you know, just legends of the 18-footer era back when we were young blokes. And, you know, that's the legacy that this class has. It's generation to generation gets passed on. And there's a lot of names who we've seen generation of, you know, grandfather, father, son, sons of sons, still prolific in the class. Once it's in your blood, you can't get it out.
Yeah, the names like you mentioned, the Holmes, the Beashels, the Barnabases, the Bethwaites. You know, it's just that you can sit here all day talking about all these names.
Yeah.
It's just all in their blood. And you know, there's been so many people that have contributed to this club and this class over the years. And it's why we're still here 90 years later, still commentating on all the action.
Pretty good turnout on the spectator ferry here today too. That's come out to watch, and a bit of a shindig set up in the park for this evening down at Double Bay Park. So if you're around, come down later on and have a look at the skiffs and maybe get involved. Any old skiffies out there celebrating the anniversary of the club in Double Bay Park this afternoon and this evening.
Yeah, I think that's right. That's a great setup, actually. They've got a big outdoor tent and bar set up, and big grass area. So yeah, if you've had any involvement with 18-footers or anything over the years, it'd be a great day to come on down and run into some old friends. And then we've got the Balmain. So last night we had the Balmain Cup, and actually the Balmain supporters are still out again today. The skiff just made a flyby past the spectator boat and got a loud cheer.
Slept in the park.
I think they did. I don't think they went home.
They haven't been home. They've been partying all night.
Can you get closer to that, please?
Just got a bit of fruity action down by the start line here at the moment, with a large yacht coming through the middle of the fleet and getting a bit of an earful from a couple of people.
And we've got the mighty Vicavy just on screen there. Kirk Mitchell, Andrew Stevenson, Dan Barnett. Obviously, I've got a bit of bias. Love to see the boys pull out a good result today. So you never know. I do have. They do think that I have a sponsor's curse whenever I come down. That I've been told maybe on some days I shouldn't come down.
Pat, it's not you, I can assure you.
I sometimes just don't tell them when I come down.
Just go through the spectator. Yeah.
Looks like just off our starboard side, I don't know if we'll get them on camera, but it looks like Tommy Woodcock's, there they are. I believe it's Tommy Woodcock's Bucks party today. Is that right, Jimmy?
I believe so, but there's Tommy, there's Sebi, there's Sam Newton, there's James Doran. Who else was there? Marcus Ashley Jones, Tommy Anderson. So a pretty wild bunch.
Pretty heavily weighted little rib there. So
A few JJ winners between them on board that thing.
Mick Elaine there too.
Mick Elaine, yes.
Yeah. So shout out to the boys and congratulations, Tommy. He's marrying Olivia Price, another very well-known Aussie sailor and Olympic silver medalist.
So not long off a start here. We've got the 5-minute gun has just gone. So this is where we see what the 18s are made of as far as chasing down those cherubs and so forth. It started an hour ago.
Well, I reckon the cherubs have got to be getting down to Clontarf now.
Yeah, I think you'd be right, Pat.
So there's a fair. That's half a course to hunt down here, but be interesting. So actually, given the Bucks party just there, Mick Elaine is not skippering the Yandu today. I believe Fang has gone onto the wood today, so I'm not sure who else has filled in for Fang on the boat, but yet another new helm for the Yandu this year.
Harry Price also at the Bucks party, we can see there, and who have we got filling in for him today? We've got Nick Robbins, I think. So yeah, on the rag filling in for Harry today, we've got Nick Robbins, who's a visiting English 49er sailor, I believe.
So pretty handy.
Well, we'll see, yeah, mate. I've only met him for the first time in the park this morning, and he's not a big fella. He's about the same size as Harry, so but pretty easy day today. I'm sure if he can sail a 49er, he'll get the 18-footer around the track, especially with the two handy blokes he's got in front of him.
So yeah, Matt Stender's missed out on the Bucks party by the sounds.
Good chance. He can't drink anyway.
I prefer to be sailing. Well, we're just under 3 minutes to the start now, and still quite overcast. I wouldn't say the breeze hasn't really increased a lot. If anything, I've seen a few more holes in the racetrack. But yeah, it'll be interesting to see how this progresses as we go around the course.
Yeah, to me it looks like it's dropped off a little bit, Pat. A little bit lighter, and certainly a lot patchier. I'm just having a quick look at what readings we've got now. We're down to about 10 to 12 knots at the moment. So that is a drop from the sort of 13 to 15 we had a little bit earlier. Still holding in the southeast at the moment, but yeah, this doesn't really play into the 18-footers' favour because the other guys managed to get down the harbour in a bit more pressure, a bit more boat speed, and the 18-footers, they've got a lot less pressure. And I think if the breeze is going to shift anywhere, it'll go a little bit east of southeast, which isn't going to help them either because they're going to have a more two sailing rather than spinnaker up in that breeze direction. So they'll have a short beat up to Shark Island, to the mark that we saw earlier at Shark Island, and yeah, there's no way they're going to carry a spinnaker to Sow and Pig, so we'll probably see the 18-footers set a spinnaker, get themselves out into the middle of the harbour, and then drop them to sail up towards Sow and Pigs, and then get their way over across the opening of the heads to Canai before they head down to Balmoral.
So we're just coming up to 1 minute before the start, and Fleet has set up a fairway behind the start line, and then just off screen, Shaw and Partners have got a spinnaker up to try and get themselves back in time, which they're going to do so. Make sure they've got to keep their sponsors happy.
We're down inside 1 minute already. Yeah, Rag and Famish right up on the line. They're looking a bit indecisive of what they're going to do here. They're going to have to wash off a little bit of time. But yeah, the majority of the fleet stacked up back behind the boat end. Sixth a little further down the line, but yeah, majority of the boats up further towards the boat. Finport, you can see just shooting through there, just trying to get themselves up into the front line and looking at sort of midline. And the one boat that we do have right down the pin end is Yandu. And at the moment they're looking like they're shaping up for a port start, but I can tell you right now I can't see that working for them.
Could fit a nice duck behind the Rag though, I reckon, Dolly.
Oh, they might be able to pull something off here. They're going to push it. There they go.
There we go.
Rag had to alter course a little bit there, and individual, and I've got to say that was probably Yandu.
No, and he's got a fair way to get around if it is. And probably a bit of an unforced error there, because if he just took the stern of the Rag, he would have been okay. But
we've got Smeg actually returning behind the line, but I don't think it was
the flag remains up.
The flag does remain up, Jimmy. Yep.
Oh, you've got to love a bit of controversy.
Here you go. Yandu's peeling away, and they're coming back now, as is the Kitchen Maker.
Well, it's a long course, so you know you don't want to have. You've got time to catch up.
It's a long way to go to be disqualified too. Yeah.
Sure is.
Yeah. So I'll just keep an eye on them for you folks and see if that flag goes down when these guys go back.
Meanwhile, we've got the Rag and Famish that's tacked onto port and is crossing the majority of the fleet. So clearly our 49er British guy is pretty handy from what it would appear. But it's got a nice breeze line making their way to the right-hand side of the course. So the Rag's definitely a clear 18-foot skiff leader at the moment.
So the kitchen maker has returned, Gotcha for Life and Yandu, and yet the individual recall flag still remains up. So I'm pretty sure Yandu was over, but it would appear that there might be someone else. And
well, we might try and get a bit of intel on that one. I think Jimmy's onto it already, so we'll stand by for more updates.
The only other suspect may have been the Rag and Famish, do you think, maybe?
Well, potentially. I hate to say it now, I think about it. The Vycombe was up on the line, but we'll just have to see. But on screen at the moment, the Rag is making their way to the right-hand side of the course.
We just went past Noakes on screen there. They've broken their boom bang and are endeavouring to tie it back on. The attachment at the boom has come off.
It never goes back on when you do that, though, Noel.
Pretty tough, isn't it? You got to get that main on, get the bang eased right off, get enough slack in it to reattach it. So you can see there, Rag and Balmain, they've taken a dig over to the east, and now they're back on starboard, and yeah, looking pretty good coming off that shore.
Yeah, they're in a good little spot up there on the right-hand side. Bit of yacht traffic they've got to navigate around. Balmain's just got to squeeze in front of that yacht now, but I think he's done that nicely. We just got the Victorians on screen as well, so
Scotty Cunningham on the helm today. They've sort of come out of that not too bad, actually. They're nice start from them. They're back on the port there. He's going to have to go behind a few boats, but they've got themselves in reasonable shape.
So I just heard from our PRO, several boats are over, and one has failed to come back.
Only one hasn't gone back?
Yes.
And I'm guessing that was the Rag and Famish?
No.
No.
Another hotel, though.
The Oak?
No.
No.
So, Southern Highlands Hotel, the Burrawang
The
Hotel.
Burrawang.
Beautiful spot down there.
Well, considering they jumped the start, they're not in a great spot at the moment, so...
Simon Nern, Max Nern.
No, Simon's away. I think it's Dan Phillips steering.
Oh, Dan Phillips steering. All right, so here we've got the leading pack with the Rag, Balmain and Six just stacked up to weather. Six actually looking pretty, Six on port tack going out to the right. Looking pretty nice, actually, in my opinion. And not a great tack there by the Rag. And Vycombe just shooting through to lure to them too, which is music to my ears. But yeah, I'd say the Sixth is starting to look pretty nice.
Yeah, they should tack in there and get a nice little shift and come out of there really nicely. Not surprised to see things a little scrappy on the Rag and Famish, because that was probably the first tack that Nick had ever done on an 18-foot skiff. He's never sailed one before. So,
we'll cut him some slack.
We will give him a bit of room, yeah.
And there's the Balmain boys. They did have a nice celebration last night. I did happen to run into the boys in the boat park, so we'll see how they fare as the day goes on. But they're just coming back a little bit light out of the left ear.
And they've got someone on the leeward wing trying to repair something.
Yeah. Yeah.
But I think we've got a new leader, Pat.
Yep.
It looks like it might be the Vycombe, mate. The Vycombe did cross in front of Six, so...
Yeah, right, Vycombe's just crossed the Rag and stacked to weather of Six there, so Yeah, that ride seems to pay pretty well. The question now is,
Will they lay that mark? Yeah.
It's a fairly long distance to get over there. But if anyone, the Vicobie's probably just stacked a little bit to weather, which might help them relative to the 6th.
I think they're looking pretty good from here, Pat. It'll actually be more a case of whether 6 can lay the mark, which I think they will. So that could give them a bit of an advantage. But if the Vicobie can put the bow down and accelerate, they might be able to roll over the top of 6.
Now, interesting on 6 today, Alex Marinelli's filming today. Now, Alex has been steering the Royal Oak for many years, but has been sheet hand with Jacob this year on the 6th.
Marks.
Jacob Marks. So good to see Alex back on the wood, and he might actually be our leader here if he can lay.
Yeah, I think they are, mate. The boys will say if you weren't here, Pat, they would have got round that mark first.
Yeah. Can you come to a few more regattas with us, Pat?
Nice one, boys. Good to see them running there in 2nd place. And it looks like it'll be the Rag and Famish behind them that'll round in 3rd. Windward set there for Vicobie. 6 just getting their chute set now.
Both of them, nice sets from both boats there. Very, very tidy work. Very, very tidy. So it looks like Rag are electing to just hang on and 2-sail for a little bit here. And they're now going to go for the set.
And Lazarus rounding in 4th place there. Last night's Balmain Cup winner.
And that's a big, big rig on the Lazarus. I think that's one of in that really light air, I think that's one of their advantages. That mainsail is massive.
It is massive, isn't it?
It's a big sail, yeah.
Not the best set by Balmain, just getting rolled by Finport. But Finport will get their chute up now in a pretty quick set if they can, and they'll be off.
Yeah, and just looking at the back on the chain there, so 6th, followed by Vicobie, and then Rag and Famish you're looking at there. The orange, the white, and the black. So they're our top 3 at this point in time. Rag and Famish, who elected to just set a little bit later, are managing to sail a higher angle up towards Nielsen Park, while the other 2 are getting carted towards Clifton Gardens. But it won't be long. Rag will pick up that same pressure, and they'll be up the back of the bus trying to. There they go now. They're being carted off to Clifton Gardens now as well.
The Yandu viewers, they're just going around the mark now, so they're probably a minute and a half thereabouts behind the leaders at the moment.
And just recapping for those that just started tuning in when the 18 started, this is the marathon course, so we're sailing all the way around. We're doing a harbour tour today, and earlier in the day we had a big fleet of cherubs and B14s, lasers, 12-foot skiffs, 16-foot skiffs, milkers. So, it really is a celebration of Sydney Harbour sailing. And they all had the same sort of situation when they came up to Nielsen Park, where we start seeing these guys getting knocked quite dramatically. And they're going to need to knock that off because they've got to leave they've got to leave Sound Pigs to port. So, we're off screen, and it's never going to come on screen, but we are going past some pretty spectacular sights here at Sydney Harbour. It would happen to be a nudist vessel. So
a ketch with approximately 30 to 40 nudists on board. Not a stitch of clothing on anyone.
Please forgive me where I was a bit speechless. I lost my train of thought for a moment there.
Set you up good, Pat.
Chits is going to get the drone back, spectators. Stand by.
dear, oh dear.
Wow, you see it all.
You see it all on Sydney Harbour, Pat, indeed you do.
Back to the racing, and as you can see,
I
they're
can't
starting to knock
unsee some of that.
They're starting to knock their spinnakers off because they've got to go to the east of Sound Peaks, so they've got to knock the spinnakers off and start sort of two sail reaching up towards the Sound Peaks.
Yeah, and I would say, just coming back to the racing, the RAG have done a great job here. They've managed to stay up high. They've managed to knock their spinnaker off sooner than everyone else, and they will be our new leader, in my opinion.
And that was a pretty cool shot of the modern 18s sailing past the vintage 18s.
Yeah, fantastic stuff.
Yeah, unfortunately, the Vicovey with a bit of a knot in the halyard. I think they're very slow getting the spinnaker down. They've still got some spinnaker up.
Sponsors curse. Sponsors curse.
It's down now, so it won't be long. They'll be back three stringing and pushing their way back up the harbour, but very, very, very patchy up through here. The breeze is up and down. You just saw the RAG boys just have to dash in so they didn't dip the wing, and like I said before, for Nick Robbins, a whole new experience for him being on the helm here, so he's learning on the fly, that's for sure, but he seems to be doing a pretty good job so far.
They're actually working here, Dole. They're not...
almost on a wind, yeah.
Yeah, not so much cracked sheets.
A couple little gusts of pressure coming to them now, about to get to them, I think, and this will see the RAG accelerate.
Yeah, you wouldn't want to get too deep on this harbour, I agree. You've got to stay on the wind. Get the new pressure coming out of Watson's Bay.
Shippo's air conditioning's turned on, that's what that is.
Aha! Good on you, Shippo.
You left the back door open. So yeah, these two really starting to get a little bit of a march on the rest of the fleet. Excellent sailing from 6 today. They're got away nicely, and they're hanging in there well. So well done to the team on 6th.
So I was handed, finally, we did get a crew list, and actually Jacob Marks is steering today, and Alex is back in their normal position with Matt Doyle on the bow. So they've been a pretty strong combination, those three, and great to see them at the front. So after we round South Pigs, we're going to go around a mark off Canine
Point, which is on just for the people, they want to look at a map of Sydney. It's sort of North Head, where the, here you go, up on the screen. So that's where we are at the moment, and that's where we're going. So it's that mark there was, well, that part of the harbour is actually quite famous, very historical site, been a quarantine station back in the day. So that's the course for today for those that are just joining us.
They're going to have a very much a VMG run down from Canine down to Balmoral, from what I think. But,
yeah, correct, Pat. It's deep. It's really the only time they'll have a deep leg on this whole course. Otherwise, everything's pretty tight.
As long as the course layer's got it right up there, Dole, can I?
As long as the mark's still in both positions, Jimmy. Fingers crossed those blokes tied up some... If we couldn't tie knots, we certainly tied lots, didn't we?
Very, very nervous few blokes on the Camry Cat here who were asked to lay some marks on the way around, Pat, so...
right.
We're hopeful that the marks are there.
It's a good little battle between Rag and Six here, Rag and Famish and Six, you know. Rag just got a little puff then and accelerated and just moved past them, but now they're in a light patch, and Six is also just hitting in a light patch, but on screen now we've got the Vicovey in 3rd place. It's just rounded, just about to round the laid mark.
Only probably 75 metres behind, and still well in touch.
Still charging.
They are, yeah. They're in a bit of pressure and a bit of. Looks like they're on a bit of a speedboat wash there too. They just lost the pressure now, but certainly still in touch. And there's a long way to go in this race.
Is Gus Williams sailing on the Finport today? Do we know?
He was no, I think he's still away.
Is he away?
Yeah. Yeah,
actually,
no,
I know
Shawnee Connor's on in replacement of Gus, yeah.
Shawnee Connor, Australian Olympian in the 49er class with Jimmy Colley. So great to see him out. And he sailed a couple of seasons on the Shore and Partner skiff. So pretty handy guy. But as you can see, it's pretty light out here today. And crews really have to work their body weight around the pressure and the light patches.
Yeah, the Vycobi was trucking towards 6 and rag, and they just ran out of pressure and all of a sudden stopped. And now you're looking at Balmain, Lazarus and Finport. They just got into that same patch. You can see Lazarus there. They're all off the trapeze, just waiting for the next gust. I'll jump back out, accelerate again. But yeah, in here under South Head, really is quite patchy.
Interesting up ahead, the rag have put a spinnaker up again, so I think it's light enough to be able to keep their height. So you wouldn't want to lose too much gauge here today early, given that once we get out in the sound, we should be getting into more pressure.
Yeah, I'm really surprised they've done that, Pat, because we're about to see they'll pick up a puff. It'll be a big left turn here.
Not on screen, but Finport's doing the same.
Yeah, and already Rag, I think, might be ruining that decision and they're going to take it down. So what they effectively did there is just handed a nice little advantage to Sixt.
They sure did. And I think today it's going to be a patience game. Everyone's going to have their turn. And I think the key is just to stay in the game. And just behind, well, you can just see the camera cat on screen, and we've got the Balmains making a real charge up against Vycobi right now. So they've got some good pressure, and they're just moving up to Vycobi now on screen. But now they've hit a light patch, so now it's their turn to have a wait.
Yeah, fortunately, yeah, so there's looking down, you can see most of the 18-footers in the one shot, they're all in a line. As we're moving into the heads and getting a little bit more consistent breeze, they're looking a little bit better. We just had off screen there, Finport still with the spinnaker on, and they're not pointing in the direction that the mark is. So they might be going fast, but they're going fast in the wrong direction. So they're persisting. There they are now. So they're sort of mid-harbour now, but they're going to have to drop at some stage, and then they'll be on a very tight leg to get up to the laid mark at Canine Point.
And it's not often that you see the 18s out here in the Sound, in the Seaway, right? We're normally sailing every part sort of south of Beetle Boy.
Yeah.
So it's kind of cool seeing the boats out here stretching their legs.
Up in Jimmy's and my end of the harbour, mate. This is our domain up here. The Manly end, the good end.
The good end.
I would have thought they've got a boy named after you two up here.
We're working on it. We're actually going through the combination of the Manly 13-foot skiffs that they got a non-point score, and a lot of the 16 guys I think have jumped into some of the 13s today just to help them out and pass on some knowledge that the guys that didn't go up to the Australian sprint titles. And then the Middle Harbour 16-foot skiff class.
Such a good, Sydney's just got such a great skiff culture, hey? It's pretty cool. Just on screen, we've got the 6.
They're moving really nicely now too, Pat. They're just about to pull 3 strings again.
And especially through this Seaway Dole, which is
pretty tricky.
Yeah.
Pretty tricky, yeah.
They've pulled a nice little lead out on the Rag and Famish, who are probably rowing their decision to put the spinnaker up earlier, but they tidied up that mistake not too bad. They're still in the hunt. And just behind them, we've got Vycobi followed by Balmain, who are neck and neck for third.
Yeah, they did give away. I'll give a little bit away, but it was worth a shot just to see if they can pull it off.
And
Now Sixter's going for the kite. I'm happy to say our marker's where we put it, Jimmy. That's 1 out of 2.
1 out of 2. I think Chid's claims that's the one he put in, mate.
Oh yeah, he throws a beautiful anchor.
well done for not putting it so close to the headland. At least it's out in the breeze.
That's what happens when you get sailors to do it, Pat, rather than volunteers. We thought, yeah, we'll put it where the breeze is, not.
So you're looking at it now. I think the rag's leaving a little too late to put the spinnaker up. You know, I think the 6 has got a pretty nice angle here coming into the mark. It will stay nice and hot all the way through. The rag's now got their spinnaker up.
And what I have just noticed, Pat, is I can see the lead cherubs, B14s and 29er, have already been up to Manly and are now making their way directly back down the Harbour towards Sow and Pigs. So they've got a pretty decent jump here, but never say never. These 18-footers are pretty quick.
It's actually a bit tricky to see, but is that Robbie? I can't see Robbie. Robbie was the early leader.
I think it's Robbie down to leeward and the Larry Canary to windward.
And here comes 6 charging into the mark.
And laying it nicely too.
And I can confirm, Dole, it hasn't drifted from where we...
Of course, we did ping it.
We did ping it?
Yeah.
And actually, guys, because you've done such a great job laying this mark in the right position, they're going to get a nice jibe and a pretty nice hot angle back into Balmoral.
Pat, it's not our first rodeo, mate. Come on.
Well,
as seen on TV, Pat.
well, let's watch this jibe here. 6 coming around the market canine now, going into a jibe. Pretty nice lead. Probably got a 25-second lead at the moment. Nice jibe for them. Just throwing some more drones in the air now. And Rag and Famish staying hot on their tail. Popping in a jibe now. And actually looking at the exit angle of the 6th, actually they're going to be too tight to carry the spinnaker all the way across. So it's definitely a day of...
get it up, get it down, get it up again.
That's it. And you'll see Vycobi coming in, a bit overlaid on the mark. In fact, actually, Finport has done a nice job. They carried their spinnaker the longest down to leeward, and they've managed to squeeze into 3rd place, just rounding the mark now. So we've got Finport just rounding there in 3rd. And now they've got to hoist their spinnaker. Vycobi just about to come onto screen now into 4th place, already with a spinnaker up. In fact, Keegan on Finport's opting to not set a spinnaker, having watched 6th and the Rag get knocked down a long way. So he's
going to 2-sail out into the middle and set later, I think.
We could see
if set at all.
We could see a lead change here potentially. And Balmain seeing this as well. They're knocking their spinnaker off early. So it's not over till it's over, is it?
Hold your tickets. So yeah, Keegan's done well. I think Rag's probably still narrowly hanging on to 2nd with 6th. They'll sail a tight angle. They'll be fast. At some point, Keegan's going to have to bear away. But at the moment, they're pretty much pointing at that Balmoral YA boy that they're going to.
Yeah, he's looking pretty good.
But only 2 strings at the moment, so just pulling 3 now.
But you locals will know it gets pretty light when you get too close to Grotto down there. And just as we're making our way up here, we're just coming up past the Cherubs. And yeah, it is a pretty good battle at the moment.
Larry Canary in front, I reckon.
And Phoenix, I think.
Phoenix, is it?
Yeah, so we actually seem to have lost track of Robbie.
Well, there is a lead boat somewhere with a Lima flag up, so you can see that. That might give us half a chance.
So he might be somewhere in front of us.
He might be. He might have really cleaned out. So,
I can see a boat right up near Sow and Pigs at the moment, so, and there is a power boat up there as well.
well, I think that would be highly likely that would be Robbie up there. So, pretty massive lead.
They're not going to catch him, Pat.
I don't think anyone's going to catch Robbie today. So, Will Beck clearly has got this harbour dialed in. Right, back to the 18s.
So Finport have got the kite up. They're just off shot to the right, but we've got the Rag and Six still leading. Shot's a little bit deceptive because Six is deeper. They'll probably be able to sail a hotter angle, but it will depend on whether Rag can get up far enough to get a kite on. So you can see there's Finport with the kite up now. They may or may not make it to this mark. At the moment they're looking a 50-50 bet.
So that headland in the background for the viewers, that's Dolbroyd Headland of Tanya Park, where a young Andrew Dolly Devola grew up, and
the old stomping ground.
The old stomping ground. So this is the entry to Middle Harbour. So this is, you know, right behind us is the heads. Go out there, next stop's New Zealand. Yeah, so that shot there on screen, we're looking back up into Manly, where we'll venture off to eventually.
It's a great piece of water around here, and if you're into sailing, paddling, foiling, it's a real playground. You got a bit of wave action. It's always a lot of fun. But I think we're in for a bit of fun down the bottom here with some lighter, shifty wind as we go around some of these headlands. So the Rag's just going for a hoist now. So the Six is just to lure to them. You'll see them pop on the screen now. So they're just ahead without a spinnaker. So the Rag's got a spinnaker to try and get themselves down to the later mark.
Yeah, I think they've still got a little bit early myself. I don't know if they're going to lay this, but Max Paul is a Balmoral local, so he does know exactly where this mark is. But they might get there, but they're going to be pushing pretty hard. But they've got it lit up. They're going pretty quick now. 3 strings, rolling that kite, though. The fact that they're rolling that kite tells me that they are a little bit pressed to lay this mark, but as the further they get down, it probably will get a little bit softer. 6 on screen there, they're just going for the hoist now. You can see the orange spinnaker coming out. They've seen the game that the Rag was making on them.
Just got to shoot that spinnaker on. So just confirming, we're actually going around a YA mark.
Yeah, you've got an Australia mark, which has got a round to starboard. So this mark is effectively known as Rocky Point because of the rocky point in the background.
Because there's a rocky point.
Six they had trouble with their point.
Yeah, Six having a bit of trouble with their spinnaker, trying to get that set. So it looks to me like the Rag are our new leader.
They'll roll over the top there.
If they don't get that spinnaker set, the Finport will easily roll them as well. But looks like they've got something happening now.
Yeah, they've got it now, but now they're going to struggle to lay the mark. They need to roll the chute a bit. There they go now.
Worth noting, Dole, it's pretty light down here at this mark, so they're going to perform a jibe and then make their way over to Clontarf. So be a fairly tight angle over to Clontarf, I'd imagine.
Yeah, I think they'll be able to jibe and lay it, though. There is a reef between the two marks here, which we did take into account when we dropped the Clontarf mark into the water.
I noticed you're looking over there, Dole, and you've seen it in relatively the same spot, so that's why you're commenting.
Yeah, I'm pretty happy to see that mark there, mate.
2 from 2.
But there is also a couple of orange Balmoral marks floating around, but hopefully the boys are smart enough to realise it's the one with the North Sails logo on it, as all the others have. So thus far.
Pretty light down here, boys. Rag just rounding the mark now, gone on to starboard jibe, and 6 will jibe behind them, followed by Finport. So pretty tight race now. We've got to restart with this 3.
These guys have been racing for just over half an hour, so
Back in 4th, we have Viacobi, followed by, it looks like, Balmain and, Lazarus is in there too. Yeah. So Lazarus after Viacobi, and then looks like Balmain and Yandu for those.
which is not a bad comeback for Yandu, considering they had to go back at the start.
Indeed.
Right, so yeah, just very tight here, guys, to lay this point and get up to that laid mark that you guys laid so nicely. But you've got beautiful Balmoral Beach just in the background there, and that aerial shot. So
just on the other side of that, top of that hill there, is Taronga Zoo, which is obviously where we start down in Athol Bights, just to give you a geographical loop of how far around we've come.
Yeah, because our 18-footer viewers don't often see this part of the harbour.
Oh, and Rag's just got to get around that Spectre, or that, I don't know, Chippo would have a name for it, but I think he's just managed to get around that powerboat. And
the powerboat's making some...
Oh, no, now 6
dear.
is trying to go around, so it's just coming on footage now.
Uh-oh.
Oh, well, now he's managed to get out of the way. Oh, dear.
Because of where that mark was laid, I think, Dole.
Wow, that was close. Viacobi just rounding there in 4th. Balmain, Lazarus got around 4th.
Viacobi
5th.
As I say, there's a number of orange marks down there, and I think they're wondering which one's which.
Well, hopefully they know it's the one with the North Sails sign on it.
Yeah, and it's right in front of the rag now, so it should be fairly obvious, one would hope.
There's, just to give you a picture of what it's like, it's, boats can be parked and then another boat could be sailing along at sort of 14 knots of boat speed, so there could easily be another restart coming up very soon. But just seeing the rag around that Clontarf mark now, followed by Finport.
I think a few people sitting there on Balmoral Beach that watch sailing and rubbing their eyes going, they're the 18-footers in Middle Harbour, what's going on?
What are they doing here? And just while we're going past Balmoral, like in this part of the harbour, you see, Balmoral Sailing Club, and they have everything from scow moths to windsurfers. And windsurfers, well, we've got the best... Oh, hang on a sec.
Not on the screen, but Finport has hooked the mark.
He has hooked the mark. That might upset your anchoring skills. You've obviously anchored it very well, guys, because they're having to jump in the tide and unhook. Oh, we've got a...
Oh, dear.
Unfortunately, we haven't got this on screen. Here we go. We've got it right now. You'll just see Finport is well and truly hooked on that mark, and we've got the bowman in the water trying to... Now they're backing it up. But that's a pretty costly mistake for Finport. And Lazarus is now breathing down their neck.
Good thing we haven't talked about that, right? Yeah.
So there we go. They're off the mark now, and that's a bit of a costly mistake there for Finport.
Next round is the Lazarus. They've given the mark a good nudge too.
No mark set bots. And we've just got Vykobi coming in now in 5th place with Yandu, as you mentioned before, really one of the movers in the fleet, making their way up through the fleet, with Fang Warren helming today.
No, Josh Perbeski.
Josh Perbeski
on today,
And Fang was telling me he was going to do the Spinnaker downwind and the main upwind today. So
Right,
He's a man of many skills.
right.
and that's the grotto. Is the headland closest to us, and North Head in the far distance. So the skiffs go from here. They've got to work their way up into Manly and go around a mark in front of Fairlight, then one in front of the wharf, and then they come charging back down the harbour.
Oh, it's great to see the 18-footers back in Middle Harbour. Been quite a while since we've had 18-footers down here, and I can just see the local windsurfer fleet there is Max Paul's mother, who is a very well-known windsurfer sailor, Sarah Kenny, former Vice President of World Sailing.
Dolly, you did have a fantastic result at the Vykobi Windsurfer Nationals the other week. I was very impressed to see you on the podium, my friend.
Yeah, 2 bronze medals. Pretty happy, Pat, at the Vykobi Windsurfer National Championships, mate. Great event, and thanks, mate. I'm super happy with the result.
Fantastic, and just see the boats now sailing up between Grotto and moving their way up to Middle Head. Looks to me like this cloud is bringing a bit of an increase in breeze, so...
Always more breeze up this end of the harbour, Pat.
You wouldn't be biased, would you?
No, not at all.
But,
Up in God's country. But great pictures looking down. You know, Middle Harbour's a bit shallower than the main harbour, so you get that nice coloured water and good view over the sandy bottom. It's making for some lovely pictures of the 18s.
I'm keeping an eye on the Victorians here. They're going right up into the shallows under Grotto, so...
yeah, I hope they know it gets shallow.
Yeah.
They will find out.
They're just coming on the screen now, but
There they are.
they're getting a nice little left-hander out of Grotto, but hasn't quite kicked in yet. I know that reef intimately from my surf ski exploits. It can get very shallow there.
Yeah, but in a good sou'easter patch, you can get a pretty nice wave get running there.
I think you've made lots of money on that reef, Dolly, over the years.
Over the years, it's been pretty good to me, but I've also had some pretty good surfs and windsurfs on that point over the last 60 years, or many years as a kid. We surfed Grotto Point bigger than some of the beach breaks that I'd surfed over the years. It can really get pumping in a big swell.
No, it can be really lively out here in big conditions. It's fantastic. Back to the racing, as we see.
Around the corner.
Going around the corner. We're going to make our way down to Manly this time.
Down to Manly, yep. Manly West, Manly East, YA marks. And just in front of us, you can see Josh reading the course sheet.
Which way do I go? Which way do I go?
Well, that's pretty clever. It's a smart move because there's a lot of different marks out here today. So,
and look, we're pretty much at the halfway point of this race right now, and we've got the top 6 boats within probably 150 metres of each other. So, so far this racing is looking very, very, very good. And I don't think so far we could pick a clear winner.
well, I've got to say, I have been impressed with Yandu, the way they've moved through the fleet. That has been pretty cool to see. But, 6 and the Rag have been sailing pretty nicely. So, they're obviously the Rag leading at the moment. Way up in the distance. We'll try and make our way up there so we can cover that action.
There's Yandu, we're just underneath Vykobi there. Yandu's chosen to take a slightly lower route, and they're going to try and cut through the for Dobro and Bombora are a little bit finer, but they want to be careful because as this breeze heads, if they have to do a little short tack to get around the point, that'll be costly. So far, looks like Rag and Famish have judged it really nicely. They'll be looking to come around this corner at Dobro and Bombora, get a little bit of height, and then they should be able to get a spinnaker on to run down to Manly West YA Boy.
Yeah. Yeah, I think, well, Nick Robbins, he's from England, so at least he's got Max Paul to show him around the harbour and tell him where to go, because they're our leader now, so they've got a pretty handy lead, I think. You know, you look at Six, our second place right there. They've sold a great race, by the way, Six. They haven't made many mistakes. They've stayed in the hunt every time.
Yeah, they've sold very well and consistently. They had a couple of good races last night too, so you know, those guys starting to find their legs. We always have a bit of a joke, Pat, that they never finish sixth.
And as we're making our way up here, we're actually catching up to the B14s and the 16s and the 14s and the 12-foot skiffs. Early on, the International 14 was the leader of that fleet, and I can sort of see them back up in the sound with a nice handy lead. So I think the 18s are certainly going to catch up to this pack before the finish, I would have thought.
Yeah, they'll be catching the B14s, I think, and this group of 12's a bit of a mixed fleet, but I'm not sure that they're going to catch Will Beck in the Robbie.
No, he's gone. He's probably almost in the showers right now, I reckon.
The Rag going for the spinnaker there.
So we're now going down to that YA mark that's just off, well, what do you call that?
Fairlight.
Fairlight,
yeah.
Fairlight Boy. Yep.
I'm going to name that that point, that headland after Dolly's favourite ex-mare.
They were going to, but they got knocked on the head, fortunately. Mean Gene. But, yeah, we used to have 3 YA boys here. We did have Fairlight, then Manly West and Manly East, but now Manly East, Manly West. Manly West is pretty much where the Fairlight YA boy was, so just saves a bit of confusion that wasn't really necessary to have 3 marks.
So
But
there in the background is a really nice walk around to Reef Beach, and 40 baskets in the background. It's quite a nice little area.
Yeah, it's a beautiful part of the harbour up here in the northern part. Really nice. Reef Beach used to be quite famous for what we just saw on one of those boats earlier today, with a whole people without clothes on.
Old Rexy Moss have put a stop to that.
Yeah, they stopped that. But the Rags certainly making their way up, and actually, it won't be too long before we see our first pass, the first passing where an 18-footer will pass an earlier fleet. I think it's going to be the 12-foot skiff that's going to be the first boat to be passed by an 18.
Yeah, and I think I thought it was Skull, but it's actually not. It's another 12-footer.
Yeah. Once again, it's a little light down here. We're just down at this Fairlight mark at the moment, and waiting for the fleet to come down. But it's only about sort of 4 or 5 knots down here, so they're going to have to be quite nimble. Change some gears.
Got to say though, Rag has picked an excellent line coming in here. They've judged that time to set the spinnaker perfectly. Sixth are getting carted away. You can see in the background of your shot there. So they're getting carted. They're not making it to the mark at the moment. There's the mark in shot now. And as you can see, the Rag, they're going to do a great drop here right at the mark.
Yeah, they're going to extend here, the Rag. They've had
Balmain have capsized in the background of that shot.
Oh, yes, you can see that on the screen now. Balmain just off Dobroyd Head there. They've capsized to windward, I think.
Yep.
Well, that's going to ruin their day. All right. So there's the rag just going around the Fairlight mark now. And they're going to go around another YA mark as well, just to the east, before making their way back up the harbour. But as I mentioned before, pretty light, and it looks like the Bucks party is still out there. No, not sure.
No,
They've abandoned ship.
Abandoned
So
ship off that one.
they've probably been dropped at Manly Skiff Club, I would guess. But six next round, nice drop there from the boys, just tidying up that last little bit. And Keegan in the Finport coming right back into the mix here. So
Keegan wouldn't want to hit one of those marks.
After getting tangled up on that mark and giving away a fair bit of distance, he's closed back in on sixth.
And there's, from that view there, that's Manly Wharf and East and West Esplanade, and just to the right of, basically right above the Rag and Famish there on the waterline is the mighty Manly 16-foot skiff sailing club.
Yes, you guys know.
Not that we're biased in any way.
Never.
But one of the best spots on Sydney Harbour.
It is a great spot. We've got some great skiff clubs around the harbour, haven't we? You know, it's we've got some great sailing clubs and skiff clubs, but certainly Manly's one of the most active in the harbour. It's pretty cool. Back to the sailing, Lazarus just gone around in 4th place, followed by Yandu, who continues their charge up the fleet, with Vycobi rounding in 6th place. So
and Rag and Famish have just claimed their first scalp. So actually second. There's a B14 dribbling down the harbour here. So a B14 and a 12-foot skiff
Dribbling down the harbour.
have both been passed.
Yeah.
They are dribbling.
I think that is the Pretty in Pink, from my recollection. It
Yep.
was not the nude. It was the other, the nude. But so okay, so we're starting to see some passing of the earlier fleets, but very light down here in the North Manly. But quite a gap from after Vycobi, which would be the Victorians, and then Burrowang as well. We've got Burrowang now. Earlier, for listeners, you might remember Burrowang, we believe, was over at the start, so they might be doing all this in vain at the moment.
The black spinnaker there is a Victorian, Scotty Cunningham on the helm. They're followed by the Oak and Balmain are back upright again. See them in one moment. Very unfortunate they had a bit of a swim back there, and I don't know, they were very close to the point. I'm hoping they didn't hit the reef off the aptly named Reef Beach.
Well, I
don't think they did, Dole. I think they were a bit further down from where the reef was. So.
Yeah, the boys were pretty tired when I saw them in the boat park this morning, so they might have just...
Little lapse of concentration.
Lapse of concentration. But they got it up quick, and I didn't see too many prawns coming off their spinnaker. But
very, very light for those 3 boats now. You know, they're struggling to get down to that mark. So
we just
whereas
now
we can see Rag, they've got a fair bit of power there now.
Yeah, the Rag just sailing on pretty nicely on port tack up the harbour, so they're going to be on port tack for some time now. And they've got a pretty big lead over 6th, this is 2nd. And Finport just off their hip. Keegan York, 3rd place. So, to me, that's probably going to be a pretty clear pack now. They're going to make a bit of a break from the trailing 3 of Yandu, Lazarus and Vycobi. I think it's going to be one of those little exit points where you get a bit of a game.
Got to say, Keegan York looking very determined when we were just close to him then, and he's on screen there now, just behind 6th. He had his head down like he means business, I think. I don't think he'd be very happy about wasting a minute or 2 at that rounding mark at Clontarf, and he's going to pin his ears back and really try and pass these 2 boats and be my tip.
Just to the right of that shot we were just on, the kitchen maker's in a bit of a pickle trying to set their spinnaker. And they're very close to that reef, so fingers crossed they don't get the spinnaker pop out and end up on the reef.
Yeah, they are very close. Look, anyway, back on screen though, we've got the Finport and 6 still going upwind with the Rag ahead of them. So, bit of a cloud up ahead. Don't think we're going to see a dramatic increase in breeze along here, Dolly.
No, I think what we've got for the afternoon is pretty much holding up now. But what we are going to find, we've got to pass east of Sow and Pigs, and we'll be running down past Nelson Park to get down to Shark Island. It's going to be very patchy through there with the land mass in the way. So anything could happen through there. You know, Rag could get in there and be a bit unlucky and park up in a bit of a hole while the other two bring a bit of pressure with them. So this race is far from over.
No,
We've just claimed another B14, the Rag, so they're slowly picking their way through the earlier fleet.
The other one that's on the charge, not on, or just on the back of that shot there, is Yandu, is up into 4th and charging out of Manly Cove.
Looking strong.
Yep.
So, yeah, they're a little lower on the course too, so they'll probably sail a little bit tighter angle to get up to Sow and Pigs.
And just for listeners, they were over at the start, so they tried a port tack approach and were over and had to go back around the start and restart, so they lost a lot of time at the start, and they've managed to sail their way through the pack into what looks like 4th place now, so pretty impressive. But you know, those guys are one of the fastest boats in the fleet. You know, Fang and Louis certainly know how to make that boat go. Current JJ world champions. So, and today with Josh Peremsky on the helm.
Yeah, Mick Lane was steering when they won the title. But what I'm seeing here is Finport is grinding away at these two at 6 and the Rag. They look really locked in, the Finport. They're looking at them from behind there, and they're little bit of incline to windward. The boat's really flat. Sail trim looks perfect, and they're really ripping. They're starting to roll over 6th, and I think they might be just starting to take a little bit of ground out of the Rag as well, but the Rag is still holding a pretty healthy lead.
Keegan has done a few seasons in the 16s here at Manly, so yeah, he's used to this seaway, and you know, his normal home waters of St George down there, sailing on the Georges River, they have a fair bit of joggle and jump, and you know, the run out tide nor'easter down there really steps it up. But you know,
yeah, he's no stranger to this end of the harbour, Jimmy. All right.
He's done a really nice job though, getting some gauge off 6. You know, he really has taken that high road through here and now managed to get into that new breeze line coming through the heads. And like you say, he's got that nice windward heel that you were just talking about before, Dolly. Pretty good setup.
Yeah, really good trim. So Sean Connor on the sheet, and he's
B14 dull there on screen, Boneworks. Is that one that was that one of the ones you built?
373, yeah, I think it might be. Yeah.
Was that one of Marty's boats?
Originally went down to Victoria. I think it might have been one of Lindsay Irwin's B14s, possibly.
That's Ralph Stanford on the hill. But yeah, a bit of a light patch for them as the 18s charge through the fleet. And just on screen, our leader, still Rag and Famish. Today with Nick Robbins, British 49er helm, on the helm of Rag and Famish. So they've got a pretty nice lead now. Like, we're just we have the camera boat next to Finport and 6, and I would say the Rags are good.
At least 100, over 100 metres,
Yeah,
Pat, would you say?
I was going to say something like that, 150.
Yeah.
Yeah, so, yeah, there we go, on screen you can see now the distance. So they've really legged out here and looking pretty sharp in the Sydney Harbour Marathon. And starting to really come up towards the fleet of the B14s and 12s and 16s. So
they're just sort of near the Sound Pigs, Beachville Boy, and they look like they've stopped basically, haven't they?
Yeah, I was saying that's what I mentioned before. With once you get behind the landmass, Jimmy, it's going to get pretty patchy through here.
Yeah.
And yeah, we'll see how. I'm sure that the crew on the rag will be giving Nick good guidance as to how to get through, because this is all a mystery to him, right? He hasn't sailed here, he hasn't sailed an 18-footer, so...
Well, he'll be back with bells on if he wins this.
Yeah. Or maybe you should just retire while you're a winner. But yeah, so far so good. And look, Keegan in the Finport, you can see there now, he managed to rein in sixth quite convincingly, but now that he's got with them, he's having trouble shaking them. Sixth are actually holding on well, considering the speed that Finport pulled sixth in. They're now kind of stuck together.
And Yandu and Lazarus aren't too far behind the Finport and sixth. They're probably another 70 metres or so behind Finport and sixth there. So still, I think all placings are still up for grabs here in the 18s, that's for sure.
Yeah, so there's Yandu now, and they're once again looking well trimmed, well sailed. They're also making a little bit of a gain on sixth and Finport. Finport probably made the biggest gain in that last exchange that we've had, and now we're on rag and they've sailed into a hole. So this is what we were talking about before. Very patchy through this next sort of half a mile to get up to Rose Bay. Now what we can see here is one boat park up, the trailing boats pull them in, and then they get into the hole, and the leading boat just manages to pick up a little bit and get away. But this is going to be really tough to manage. We've seen them park up here now, and the boat, which is still moving quite nicely towards them, is Finport, who's put a little bit of a gap on sixth at last. He's been trying to shake sixth for the last 5 minutes and hasn't been able to, but he's finally managed to just break away a little bit.
yeah, and we're just going past the B14s there. I think that's Sophie Hunt, I think. They've got their crew right on the bow there just to get the back of the boat out of the water for less drag, but it goes to show how light it is here as we make our way up to Sow Pigs. So we've got to leave Sow Pigs to starboard on the way back.
And same with the Beachville Boy, which is in behind the Sound Pigs.
So what you can see there now is Finport and sixth have now pulled into the same parking spot that the Rag and Famish were in, and now you're looking at Rag and Famish there. They've picked up the pressure again and they're off. So there's the split screen. You can see very light on the left there, which is where Rag was parked up. So what Finport and sixth really need to do here is transition and get their way out of that hole as quickly as they can. It looks like Finport is just starting to pick up a little bit of pressure now.
And here comes the Yandu.
But will Yandu lay? I think they probably will.
They will lay, and I think them being just that little bit further off under South Head, they shouldn't fall into so much of this hole, but just feeling the breeze come through the boat, and Finport's back up and moving, and saying that, the Rag and Famish has just fallen into the hole.
Yes, I think you got to hold on to your tickets. And I think the Rag's just coming up to the spectator boat as well. So
and six gets a wriggle on back there.
Right, in third place.
Yeah, so now we're about to see Finport get into that soft patch, whereas up ahead, Rag and Famish, there they are now. You can see they're in pressure now. You can see by the white water coming off the boat, they're 3 strings and really on the hunt again now.
And they're going to make their way up the harbour and then go around Shark Island again. So they're going to have to navigate that light patch off Nielsen Park yet. So there'll be some different strategies as to how best to approach that.
And the spectator ferry's got a loose cover on the Rag and Famish at the moment. They'll be trying to push through there, which I think they just managed to do now. So, but again to Keegan there, right, Pat? I think Keegan's closer than he was 4 or 5 minutes ago.
Yeah, and I was just thinking, you know, as they've been making their way up in this long port tack, it's a really good practice, you know, particularly as we're coming up to the JJs. You know, they've got a really good long port tack to assess boat speeds, get good at changing gears, and certainly changing gears is pretty relevant today.
Yeah, there's plenty of that going on right now as we get through this really shifty patch between South Head and Nielsen Park.
Just catching up on all the B14s here.
And once again, Rag in good pressure, 3 strings and really starting to motor again. So next little transition for them will be getting around the point at Nielsen Park and picking a lane to get themselves back up to that laid mark off the tip of the southern tip of Shark Island.
But you've got to hand it to 6. You know, they've sailed a really good race today so far. They're sitting in 3rd, and yeah, sure, Keegan has just managed to sail pretty well then past them, but they have managed to, they've just managed to always hang in there. They haven't made any major mistakes, and they've kept themselves in the race. And I think that's the key today, is you've got to keep yourself in the game, not do anything stupid, and they're certainly doing that today, I think.
Yeah, they're hanging in there in 3rd pretty nicely, and there's still a way to go here yet. So, yeah, and there's Yandu just coming into the shot there now. So, Yandu in 4th, and once again making gains. So, while the Rag up forward a bit, looks like they've parked again. They'll be in your top right of top left of shot there, and you can see Keegan really on Finport, really closing in there now, as is 6 and Yandu. We're going to see a compression of the fleet here, but these 3 trailing boats are also going to sail into that same low pressure, and Rag should get out of it first, but what it's doing is compressing the 4 boats into one group.
Another restart.
Just about. I can just see Rag just getting going again now. So it'll be about how Finport 6 and Yandu can transition through this hole themselves. It's about wasting as little time in there as you can.
And Dole, like looking at the B14 with the wings, the 18s with the wings, you obviously worked with Jules that helped, or you know, basically the B14 came from. Is that where the design sort of was that from the Prime sort of?
Well,
thing?
Julian designed an 18-footer called a B18, and that boat was basically a moulded production boat. And at the time, the thought was to reduce costs, make a cheaper boat, possibly go one design. And the league at the time were looking at that. And basically, the B14 is a scaled-down version of that boat. So a 14-foot version of that production 18-footer. Now, they did build quite a number of those B18s, sort of one design 18-footers, but as the Grand Prix developed and the sort of next generation boats came along, they got outdated. So, but yes, you're right, Jimmy. The other interesting thing with the B14, it was originally named the Exocet.
Didn't wash over too well somewhere.
Well, just as the class was launched as the Exocet, the Falklands War broke out, and Exocet wasn't considered to be the best name, so the name was changed to B14.
All right, back to the 18s, and
the mighty Vycobi. So you can just see up ahead, so Vykovi's 3 stringing and pressure at the moment, but all the boats up ahead are all upright and they've got everyone off the wire and they're all just navigating their way around this hole off Nielsen Park. And just, we're going to moving up to Rag and Famish now, but Rag and Famish is probably the boat that's got a bit of pressure. Having said that, Yandu has actually managed to skirt around that point and with a bit of pressure. But yeah, Rag and Famish is out through that little light patch and on their way to the Shark Island mark, which is another turning mark for us on this marathon course.
Yeah, there they are. They're legging away nicely, and while the other boats are sort of parked up in the hole, they've managed to get their way through, and they're now 3 strings going fast, heading towards the mark, laying the mark. They'll get to this mark, put a spinnaker up, and make their way down towards the finish. And barring any kind of disaster, I can't see them getting caught from here, Pat.
They're interesting in the overall scheme of the race. I can see on the other side of the island, Thurlow Fisher 16-foot skiff going downwind. I can also see what potentially could be a cherub that could be Will Beck, but we don't know. Will Beck was one of the earlier leaders.
Mate, I think he'd be home and already having meat pies.
I think you could be right. He could be in the. He could be back at home, back at watching
If he's
TV.
early lead had anything to go by, mate, he was gone.
Certainly some big gaps in the field by all the fleets today. But here we are back on Rag and Famish. Mick Robbins on the helm today. Max Paul and Finn Rodowicz.
Very good team, and look for Nick to jump on the boat today, and having never sailed an 18-footer before, real credit to him to take this race off the more experienced sailors. Very, very impressive performance from him.
Passing the Cherub Monster. So they've just done another little pass. Mackenzie Main on board that Cherub. So they're moving through the fleet, and it looks like Cunningham, they're just catching up to another Cherub that's just rounded the Shark Island mark, which is called Cunningham. So the Cherub started a good hour ahead of the 18-footers, so the handicapper's done a pretty good job.
Yeah, indeed. These are the sort of the trailing Cherubs, but at first I thought an hour was a big gap, but actually it's worked out pretty well, Pat. Here comes the Rag. They're around the YA buoy at Shark Island, and they are heading for home. Spinnaker coming out. And a nice set from the boys, and they'll snap that sheet. It looks just caught for a second. And looking at Nick out there, look, the boys had a little bit of trouble with the kite there, and he was out there. He had the main sheet, he had the tiller, and he looked comfortable as handling that boat out there by himself. So
A natural.
obviously he's a pretty talented bloke. He's doing it pretty easy.
Well, where would you rather be, in England right now or on Sydney Harbour?
Yeah, not a fan of the UK, Pat. I like it warm and not cold and miserable. And they talk about whinging pomps. No wonder they whinge.
Look, we love them. Many of them listening in right now, and they'll don't worry, summer will come for them sooner enough.
Eventually.
That one day of the year.
Interesting, in that little hiccup, I did say that the kite got caught up in that set. They have actually put a hole in it down near the clue of the spinnaker. You might be able to see it there. You see it there now. So the back edge, the clue of the spinnaker, where the sheet attaches, that was caught down at the wing somewhere, and I saw Max in there trying to unhook it. And obviously something hooked on that sailcloth, and it's got a little rip in the kite, but that will hang on in this much pressure. It won't get any bigger. They should be fine.
And so what's the course from here, boys?
Straight to the finish.
Straight
into
to the finish.
Yeah.
Well,
they'll have a couple of jibes to do down here, and they're probably not too far off doing a jibe, I reckon. They're not setting up yet, but I reckon in the next sort of 50 metres they'll be looking at putting a jibe in. They have got a nice bit of pressure now, but they won't want to get too far underneath that point.
Finport's just rounded Shark Island, so is 6. Yandu and Lazarus have all just rounded. We're just getting the camera around to show you what's going on, as the rag is setting up for a jibe on screen, I dare say. No.
Yeah, they're kind of hanging on because they've got a little bit of pressure. So I think they might be looking to just go one and in.
One and in.
Yeah, so one jibe and try and lay this finish line on starboard jibe. Maybe just do a jibe at the boat at the last minute, but they're trying to keep it simple, I think. While they've got some pressure, they don't want to jibe off it.
There's the chasing pack, so it'll be tight for second and third, with all 4 of them there, being Finport, 6, Lazarus and Yandu. So
Yeah, it's going to be good. So Rag just going in for a jibe now. They'll go pretty close to just being able to lay that through the finish. Pretty nice jibe there. They needed one more jibe, let's see. But they're just catching up to a couple of cherubs and a 16-foot skiff that's just going through the finishing line now with the blue spinnaker. So the Rag just making their way back up the harbour, but back up where we normally finish our 18-foot skiff races, with the iconic Harbour Bridge in the background. But pretty good performance from the Rag today, Dolly. They've been pretty sharp.
Yeah, as I say, with a first-time helm on board and a gun crew, they've done exceptionally well. You know, they'll put under pressure a number of times where they had to get through those transition zones, and they really did it well and did it professionally. And yeah, well done to the Rag team. You know, we always seem to the cream rises to the top, and they certainly did that too. So there's the hooter for them now. So congratulations to the Rag and Famish Hotel team.
Yeah, Harry Price is just watching there on a spectator boat, so he'll be pretty happy about that. But now we're going to come back for the race for second, with Finport leading that one right now, with Yandu and Lazarus and 6 all in pursuit. So advantage Finport at the moment.
Yeah, it's theirs to lose right now, and I can't really see them doing that. They're just jibing now to match the jibe of Lazarus.
And also covering off 6 to the left of
6 around
screen.
the other side, yeah, Jimmy. They don't want them picking up a puff and getting through. I think what we're going to see here is that's them out on the left-hand side. Yandu's going to roll the dice and just keep going down further and try and come in hot on starboard, I think. They really just have to do that to throw something at these guys. They're a little bit behind them.
A pretty impressive result for Yandu. You know, they've sailed all the way back into what looks like to be third place from dead last.
They've picked a pretty skinny ley line here, though.
They have.
But they're in pressure.
That's all right. Those 2 boys know how to swing it down. No problems.
So top of picture there, you can see Finport just approaching the pin end of the finish line now. Little jibe and that'll get them through. And that's them finished. And it's going to be close here. It looks like Yandu will just get through. They're under pressure. They've ragged the kite. They don't want to do that, but they're trying to get over the boat.
Oh, they just squeeze in.
And they'll just squeeze in. It's going to be super tight here. Photo finish.
Oh,
You call that one, Dol?
I think sixth at the pin end, and then Lazarus.
yeah, I'd agree with that. Just because of the pin end bias.
Yeah.
Tight finish though. So we've got Rag and Famish first place, Finport second, sixth third, fourth was Lazarus, and in the distance now, I can actually see Burrowang coming down with a blue spinnaker, but we do know that they were.
That's the Gizmo 12-footer just going past us.
There we go, the Gizmo. Having a nice little sail downwind there on the 12. James Birdsall. Another 12-foot just driving there now. I think that was the Skull, Dave Winning.
Yep. Yeah,
Not much to those boats, is there?
That's Skull on shot there now, yep. Yeah, big kite, little boat. Plenty on. So yeah, they've got around pretty well, the 12s.
So Burrowang just coming through here now. We know earlier they were over at the start and did not return, so they will be scored an OCS today.
Devastated.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's a long day's sailing for no reward. Unfortunate for them. So that's them you can see there with the light blue kite. And the white spinnaker you can see in the top of the shot is the Vycobie. And they're going to be battling it out with the Victorians. Good race from Scotty Cunningham.
Yeah, they've had a great race. There's the Vycobie. Just great little shot there as they're coming into the finish on Port Jibe. Just catching up to a couple of cherubs. In fact, there's a cherub coming on starboard jibe that they're going to have to cross ahead of. I think they're a fellow Drummoyne sailor, so I reckon they might have a bit of sway to get through there.
Yeah, I reckon they know most of the cherub sailors, so
Yeah.
they'll be given a bit of an easy run. Bit of leeway.
So that's fifth place for Vycobie. 2, 3,
And
four.
the Victorians, well done to them.
Yeah, that's a good effort from them, wasn't it, Jimmy?
That is a solid
Yeah.
effort, considering they have no one to race against for.
And same again, they wouldn't know that upper end of the harbour at all.
No, I don't think.
Yeah, so sorry, Vycobie was in sixth, and then the Victorians in seventh, with Burrowang obviously being an OCS. And then we've got the distance there, Balmain, you can see coming down. Balmain had a swim, you might remember, just off Dobroyd Head, where they capsized to windward. Maybe a lapse of concentration. So,
and very costly. They were in that top group for the first half of the race. So, yeah, really, real shame that they put it in the drink up there. But that's sailboat racing.
they do seem to be a bit like that, don't they, the Balmain? They're either really hot or the opposite.
They've just got to take that P-play period of their life and they'll be fine, mate. That little 12-footer in the foreground there, that's Lincoln Crown, which is Jonathan Temple by memory.
Yeah, with Richard Jones. So
Richie Jones, been together forever and a day, haven't they, Dole?
They certainly have. Yeah, no, two good mates. I've done a fair bit of sailing with both those guys. Richard sailed in the bow with me, and I skippered a yacht for Jonathan one year when we did very well in the Sydney to Coffs Harbour race. So you would have liked the name of that boat, Pat. It was called Teenage Love Machine.
Stop it. To be teenager again, Dole.
So yeah, there's the Balmain. They'll.
See what I mean? They've got the whole line and they're
pushing.
We can go quicker.
They want to high five the starter.
They want to high five the starter. Yeah. They wanted to check that they weren't over, maybe.
The next boat across the line is the Nude. So the next little B14.
Richie and Lisa Reynolds, stalwarts of the B14 class from Wallara Sailing Club. And just to confirm, they're not in the Nude. The boat name is called the Nude.
The Nude always has been.
We've had enough nudists around today.
Yeah, indeed. Yeah.
And if you look out your window to the left, Dolly, you
There's Speezy. So it's pretty good, actually. There's Speezy. Now, he's been all the way around the harbour. That boat doesn't have a spinnaker. And they've just got the jib poled out on the whisker pole. We're just about to get them. And
good VMGs.
Well, he's beaten a lot of boats with spinnakers, so pretty good effort, Speezy. An old legend of the 18-footers for a long time. Sailed through my era in the 18s, and he was one of the people who stayed loyal to the 18-footer league through the Grand Prix period, and also one of the all-time highest number of Sydney to Hobart races, Michael Spees. I can't remember what he's up to now, but it's a hell of a lot of Sydney Hobarts. I think he's up around the 40 mark, so
Nearly 50.
still
getting close to 50.
still a way off Tony Ellis,
Yep,
Yes.
but not far.
not far.
Just going to finish just ahead of this B14.
Maybe.
Just, I think. Because of the pin end bias might save him there. It's Speezy. Gee, is there any boat that he hasn't sailed?
No.
You know?
No, I don't think there is.
Yeah, yeah.
The next 18 to come home is going to be the Royal Oak Hotel.
Speezy's claim to fame in the early days was he was the national heron champion.
Hey, they have a lot of fun. The herons.
Title's a title, yeah.
Absolutely.
And he's won plenty of regattas up in Asia.
Yeah. Yachting.
Yachting, yes.
In the Royal Oak with Hugo Stoner, Hugo Leeming and Dan Watson just making their way to the finish now after finishing this long marathon course. Just doing a jibe now.
The second B14 that finished was Natalia Wisniewska in number 78.
Well, what we don't know is who was the first boat across the finishing line. So could have been, my guess would probably be the International 14. Do You Get It Yet with Dave Wright? Or potentially our mate Will Beck on Robbie. So we'll have to check the results for that later on. But on screen you can see Shaw and Partners and Kitchen Maker making their way down. Shaw and Partners Financial Services, sponsor of the Sydney Marathon today. So the Spectator Ferry actually just making their way back now so they can continue the festivities back at the park where we've got a big hospitality set up today. So once again, if you're a current old skiffy, come on down.
Come on down. I don't know if you'll get a free beer, but you'll definitely get a beer.
Just getting yelled at by another helpful person, but I think this one's more helpful. He's saying first across the line was Robbie by a mile.
Ah, there you go.
So
Well, there we go.
Yeah.
Well, that's helpful. Thank you, guys. There we go. That's good intel.
We did suspect that, but yeah, good to have the confirmation. So thank you, Andrew Bushy Glassick, who's at the pin end in his rib.
And just seeing Shaw and Partners with Emma Rankin on board.
the smile on this girl's face is
There we go.
incredible. Always smiling,
And giving
always
us a
laughing.
wave. Good on you, Emma.
She is awesome.
She's done it again. Good on you, Emma. And
Even when they capsize, Pat, she's smiling. It cracks me up with her.
she loves it.
Yeah, she does. She's good.
She loves it. She literally lives to sail.
Yep.
I love it. And just seen the Kitchen Maker jibe, make their final jibe for that final approach to the finish. Not the best jibe, but they've got it set now.
Got it through.
And Lockie Steele, Jerome Watts and Darcy McCracken just crossing the line now. So looking pretty
Showed
good.
some good form earlier on, but somewhere else they got a bit caught up mid race there, unfortunately. So unfortunate. So last one that we're just going to cover bringing in is the Marine Outlet. There they are on screen there now. We just see they're on final approach to the line, but John Cooley on the helm, and they'll just do a quick jibe here and they'll come into the finish. So we'll start wrapping up for the day. Takeaways from today, Pat?
Well, takeaways. First of all, what a spectacular, occasion to see so many different types of boats all sailing together the one piece of harbour and also going to sail in different parts of the harbour. You know, it is a really great celebration of the club's 90th year anniversary, and so I think that was pretty cool, Jimmy.
Yeah, absolutely. It was really cool to see all the skiff classes all come together again. I think the last time we had all the skiff classes all come together was Geelong.
2008,
It was a 2000
I think it was 2008, was it,
something
Jimmy?
like that. Yeah,
We were sailing together, mate.
yeah. So
Yeah.
that was probably the last time we've seen, the 12s, the 16s, the 18s together, and the 14s. But this is quite a spectacular scene, and hopefully it's something that the club considers doing again and again and again, and becomes an annual thing. There's a lot of history there, and a lot of famous names have won this trophy. And the celebration week here at the 18s, for the 90 years, it's quite an achievement. A lot of clubs don't last half that amount of time, and for this to be exactly 45 years ago that this club first hosted this race is pretty cool. Half of their lifetime ago that they hosted this. So, it's a pretty cool thing to see. And as I said, I really hope to see it come back and be an annual thing.
Yeah, and it's also worth noting Warren Sayre, who runs the club's put a lot of effort into this particular event, both obviously on water and on land, so he definitely deserves some credit for bringing this back, so good on you, Woz.
And also Scarlett Morris, who's,
of course.
she's been running around like a blue fly,
Yes.
and making sure that everyone's accommodated, so thanks very much to both of them in particular.
And Lisa Gilbert as well. So,
Yep.
there's a whole army that make this happen, so well done, and pretty good stuff, Dol.
Yeah, well done to everyone involved, and yeah, as you say, Jimmy, I think we will see this become an annual event, and again, it is a real tradition, and I'm sure everyone who's come today would come back because it's been a fantastic day of racing on the best harbour in the world. Absolutely no complaints from us, and I hope everyone at home enjoyed us bringing it to you in your lounge rooms.
Absolutely, it was an epic coverage today. We sort of were on deck from early.
Yeah, long day. So we just wrap up, and for today, it's been a pleasure bringing it to you from all the Sail Media team here, the three of us, and our boys behind us, Piers, Michael, Sammy, and it's been a pleasure. Tomorrow we'll be back with the Queen of the Waves race.
Queen of the Waves.
So we're going live to air when, Jimmy?
Normal time tomorrow, normal transmission time.
Normal time.
2:20.
So tune in tomorrow. We look forward to seeing you all again then. So this is Dolly DeVola signing out on behalf of Pat and Jimmy. I can't read that, I'm sorry.